like let's get started. Welcome everyone to the San Marino Design Review Committee special meeting on October 20th, 2021. The City of San Marino appreciates your attendance. Citizens interested in providing the Design Review Committee with valuable information regarding issues of the community is very much welcome. I'd like to first now call the order. Give a roll call.
Alternate committee member Tony Chow.
Present.
Alternate committee member Rick Chow.
Present.
Committee member McKay.
Present.
Committee member Chang.
Present.
Committee member Batnich.
Present.
Vice Chair Lakon
Present.
and Chair Wong.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, now I'd like to move into the flag salute. If you may all join me. The flag salute, thank you. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda is posted in the following location for this special meeting: San Marino City Hall, San Marino Public Library, San Marino Recreation Department, San Marino website. Each committee member has received plans and has reviewed every item on the agenda and visited each site. The general order for hearing each case will be as follows. The committee will ask staff any questions they may have. The chair will then ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to comment on the proposal. The hearing will then be open to the public and the chair will ask for comments for, against, or about the project. Staff will provide a brief explanation on the public comment process for this meeting. In all cases, please come forward and give your name and address. At the conclusion of the public comments, the applicant will have a chance to respond to, and no further comments from the public will be accepted. The chair will then ask for comments from each of the committee members. If there is no motion for approval or denial, the DRC has the option of continuing the application to a future meeting. In the event of a denial, it is hoped that the applicant will have heard comments during the public comment period and during deliberations that will be useful in resubmitting an application. It is important for the property owner to understand that once a project is approved by the DRC, the drawings become legal documents. If any changes are made to the project subsequent to approval without obtaining proper approval of these changes, then the property owner is in fact breaking the law. There is risk of having to change the project back to the originally approved design or paying a fine to the City of San Marino equal to the greater of 5% of the project valuation or $2,500, and then resubmitting the changes made to the project to the DRC. It is also important to understand that there is a 15-day appeal period after action has been taken for the applicant or any interested party to request the Planning Commission to review and act on the case. After all of the agenda items have been heard, 2 Design Review Committee members will conduct the open forum. At this time, residents or their representatives may ask committee members about current or future projects relating to their property. Committee members can discuss the design with you, but cannot comment on how they might vote on the project. All right, now I'd like to turn to staff for an explanation on how we will take public comments during the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Because this meeting is conducted
virtually as well as in person. Staff will accept public comment two ways. One, for those in the audience that would like to provide public comments on an item, can please approach the mic in front of you and provide comment by stating your name and your address or the city if you like. And second, for those that are joining us on Zoom, you may use either the raise hand function, which is located at the bottom of your screen, or you can provide a message to staff letting us know that you would like to provide comment on a particular item. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Now I'd like to move on to item number 1 of tonight's agenda. Item number 1 is design review case number DRC 21-43 at 2060 Huntington Drive. Staff report, please.
Thank you. The design review case number DRC 2143 is a proposal to replace the face of an existing internally illuminated cabinet sign on an existing multi-tenant commercial building located at 2060 Huntington Drive. The total area of the cabinet sign measures 15 square feet. The proposed lettering and logo will measure a total of 5.74 square feet and will read the name of the business, CYT Financial Corporation. Staff is able to make the findings and recommends approval to the project as proposed.
Thank you. Now I'd like to ask if any committee members will want to pose question to the staff on this item number 1. Seeing none, I'd like to ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to present the project. Staff, is there any applicant's representative online by any chance?
Yeah, the applicant is present, however, they're not responding.
Hello?
Would you be able to speak up, please?
Oh, hi. My name is Chris Kim, and I'm the contractor for this project.
Sorry,
And,
we can barely hear you. So can you again say your name and address and start all over again? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Kim, and I'm the sign contractor for this project. Can you hear me now?
Could you please speak up a little more? It's a little hard to hear you.
Is there a volume button here? Hi, is that better?
That's better.
A lot better. And please
Okay, much
include
better.
your address.
Hi, my name is Chris, and I'm the sign contractor for the sign. And my address would be 821 South Vermont Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 90005. And this project is pretty much an existing box sign face change. All we're doing is just replacing the acrylic panel for the cabinet sign. That's pretty much it.
Okay, I'll let us see if there is any committee member has question for the applicant, please.
Yes, I do have a question, Mr. Kim. So you're replacing the face to the existing box, and it's white acrylic. How is that blue lettering being done? Is that a cut-in letter with the lettering?
Yes, yes, it's just cut lettering. It's just cut vinyl translucent lettering.
Okay. So at nighttime when it's lit, you see everything white, and then you see the blue letter in blue, basically.
Correct.
Okay. And you're not changing any intensity to the light, the existing lighting box? It would be exactly the same inside?
Yes, exactly the same. All we're doing is just the acrylic panel.
All right. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Committee member McKay?
I also wanted to confirm that there is going to be no change vis-a-vis the illumination in any aspect of it. And we can get that confirmation.
Yes, that's correct.
Is the applicant present?
I don't think she is.
Do you know how long the applicant has been at this business?
I'm thinking, I mean, since she contacted us regarding the business name change, I would guess within the last 3 to 4 months.
I noted that neighboring properties have planting in front of the businesses, and there is only a dirt bed in front of that. That is not something that is before us, but I want to note that for the record tonight. It is a bed of dirt in front of this property, in front of this business. I don't think that is acceptable by the standards of the city in terms of maintenance of the property. Do you know anything about the applicant and what their plans are in terms of the planting in front of the property?
I don't have a clue.
Well, I would like that noted for the record, and if it's appropriate, Chair, to note it when we make a motion on this application, because I don't think that that is in keeping with the legal neighborhood that is just bare dirt in front of this property. I've never seen that in front of a property in the city.
I think we can recommend code enforcement to go out there and take a look, and they can easily address that. You can make that as a recommendation.
Okay.
We approve it.
That was my concern also.
So with that in mind, is it appropriate for us to make that recommendation?
It's a recommendation that we would recommend code enforcement to go out there and take a look at. We're not making it one of the conditional approval.
Yeah.
But as we saw, something is not
How is
quite
that
right.
treated in context of our meeting? So I'm just trying to understand what we can recommend. or-
Excuse me, Committee Member Chow, if you could please speak into the mic.
Okay, I'm just kind of discussing
Oh,
with the member, that's what I'm holding.
It's not discussion.
Okay, we can lead the discussion at the discussion phase. So let's get
Okay.
all the questions out to the applicant at this stage. Is there any other question to the applicant?
Perhaps committee member Chow could ask that question of staff, maybe.
Chair, if I may, I'd like to ask two questions to the
Please do.
staff. Sorry to go for going back a little bit. The first question is, of all this current signs, including the one that's getting changed, are any of all the signs on the clock currently? Do we know that?
I don't know. The question was asked of the sign contractor, and unfortunately, they're also not aware because they're not changing any of the mechanics of the sign, simply the face.
Okay, so the time, if it turns all the signs, because normally we ask that questions for any new signage. So I was just trying to get understanding
Right. And
That-
yep, go.
that if there's some information related to that.
Sure. I was going to say normally we also add that condition, but in this case, because they're not changing any of the mechanics or the lighting of the sign,
Okay.
that condition wasn't added.
And the second question, I apologize if I held the mic down because I thought it was just discussing with the members. So committee member McKay brought up a good point. But my question is that when something like that, not directly related to the proposal, is in our purview, is it appropriate for us to recommend something like that?
So if you're asking if that could be made a condition of approval, there would have to be a nexus between the condition and what it is you're approving. But you can certainly make the recommendation and staff can speak to code enforcement about
Got
this
it.
concern.
Thank you. One more question.
Thank
I
you.
have a-
Committee Member Bennett.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Would it be possible to, even though that this is a swap just of the face, would it be possible to make a condition of what hours of illumination?
Yes.
Okay, and maybe we could call it directing code enforcement, that code enforcement check on the status of the landscaping.
Yeah, we can certainly recommend to code enforcement.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions from the committee to the applicant at this point? Seeing none, I'll close this section and ask if there is any public comment on the application. Anything come forth from
No one via Zoom.
the internet? Okay, thank you. Then I'll close the public hearing and I'll begin asking for comment from the committee. A committee member, Tony Chow.
No comments really. I think it's a pretty simple facade. Just swapping the outside of the sign. I think just we can put in conditions on the hours maybe.
Committee member Rick Chow.
No additional comments besides what has been already discussed and suggested, possibly a conditional approval.
Committee member Bennett.
Yes, I would recommend the condition on the hours of illumination, that there be a hard start and stop time. And the recommendation to direct code enforcement for to look into landscaping. The only other comment that I have, which is really, I guess, more of a design recommendation or just maybe something that I noticed that's slightly different about the sign that's being proposed versus the other signs that are already there, including the one that is currently that is being replaced, is that it could have just been the way that the design was shown to us on our handout. But on the other signs, there's a little more white space around, there's like more negative space around the sign, around the logo and around the letters, whereas this one takes up more of the available space, if that makes sense. So just from the point of view of compatibility, it might look a little more compatible if it was maybe 10% smaller in terms of the taking up, in terms of the letters and the logo, the amount of space it fills into the available space, if that makes sense.
So would you want to check back with the applicant, see if there is something they'll entertain, or you want to put it as a condition?
You know, whatever everybody else thinks. I don't know if I'd make it necessarily a condition, but if other members think that that's a good idea, I think it would clearly be more compatible, but it's not really a make or break. For me personally, it's not a make or break, but I think it would be a useful recommendation, and I think not difficult to implement. It's not a burden on the applicant or anything like that. So that would be my recommendation.
I'll let ask staff if it is a recommendation that a maximum of 10% reduction in letter space is to be considered by the applicant. Is it something that can be put forth? Because whatever is submitted is the final document, or whatever is approved, right?
Yeah, it's something they can certainly take into consideration, but if you just make it a recommendation, there's no
Right.
requirement for them
Okay.
to do so.
Thank you.
But Chair, would that be, or perhaps this is something we could ask staff, is that something that we could make a condition? That it be 10% less real estate?
Yeah, if you can, I'd recommend asking the applicant if they're amenable to that.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you. That's the end of my comments.
great, thank you. Committee member McKay.
Thank you, Chair. I would only be able to approve it with the recommendation for code enforcement to be directed to take a look at this property, the front of the property in terms of landscaping. I think committee member Batnage's comment is quite on point. There is, and quite observant, there is a almost a negative space frame around the farmer's property neighboring the subject property, as well as the culture escrow. And therefore, I think I would support a condition that the lettering or the sign be 10% smaller, such that there's white negative space, or framing it to be consistent with the neighboring properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee member Chang.
Yeah, I appreciate the discussion. I look at this sign carefully. If the sign box is 18 inches, I don't think the letter is 7 inches anyway. I think this is off scale. So it appears to be looking bigger than what it is. If you look at 7 inches, if that's total height of the lettering, the box doesn't look 18 inches to me anyway. I think somehow the proportion isn't quite right. But if they go down 10%, it will be about a little over 6.3 inches. Will probably be fine. It will be more in line with the old farmer sign as far as proportioning. But unfortunately, looking at this sign box, 2.5 times of 7 inches is 18, and I don't think that's 2.5 times by looking at it. There's almost like 50% of the whole box. By looking at the proportion, it's almost like a 9-inch lettering from that presentation. So yeah, I agree
good
that
point.
it looks too big the way it is now.
Mhm.
Anyway, so it should be it can be reduced 10% without any problem. It'll still be very readable. So I will go along with that. But other than that, I think it's good to go.
Thank you. At this stage, I'd like to ask Mr. Kim, if I may, staff, that to clarify this observation from the committee is that, Mr. Kim, are you still online?
Yes. Yes. I'm here.
Yes, you heard the comments from my fellow committee members so far, and we are trying to figure out if there is enough white space beyond the letters spots. So can you confirm that there is at least a 10% plus white space beyond the letterings?
I mean, the only reason why we, because this was based on the logo that was provided by the tenant, and it was just they just wanted their logo to stand out. It was more than the letters. If you just take out the logo and if it was just the letters, then you would have a lot more negative space. But it just kind of feels bigger because the thing is the logo actually has less negative space compared to the letters.
So how big are the letters? How many inches?
The letters are 7 inches.
7.
Correct.
Okay.
The logo just is 12 inches and it's very close to 18 inches. So that's why it feels like there's less of a negative space, plus the framing of it, which would just automatically lose 3 inches because it's 1.5 inches thick.
That's
Mr. Kim, do you agree that the proportion of the 18 inches and the 7 inches isn't quite in proportion from the picture that you sent us?
I mean, I'm just going based off of what the program tells me, and program
I
tells me
understand,
7
but your box is not 18 inches short.
In other words, is it to scale? What you
Yes, it is
draw?
to scale.
I'm sorry?
It is to scale.
It is to scale?
Correct.
If it is to scale, then I think you should be able to keep the logo, which is okay, but make maybe the lettering can be about 10% smaller. Would you go along with that?
That's fine. Yes.
Or the overall, like everything in it can be 10% smaller. Like the whole,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the tenant wouldn't mind 10% shrink.
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems like he's.
Okay, so if I hear correctly, that you're agreeable to having the logo and letterings be reduced 10%.
Just the whole thing in general, just
Whole
shrunk
thing, correct.
10%. Yep.
Okay, that's not good, yeah.
That will give us more white on the sides.
Right,
more
just to confirm,
open
as a
space.
result, there will be more white space.
Right, it will be less.
Around
I'm guess,
the
okay,
le-
so I'm guessing you want it to be less edge to edge.
less.
We want
everywhere.
open on
Overall.
the sides, like the
Okay.
other ones.
One
Like
more
the
white
lettering
space.
doesn't go all the way to the end.
That's
Right.
fine. That's fine.
We
Right,
want it
exactly.
broadened
And,
a little bit.
and on top and below, it should
Okay.
also,
Yeah.
like the entire
Top, bottom, left, right.
image should be 10% smaller.
So
At
it'll
least
just be
that's what I'm-
proportionally 10% shrunk.
Correct.
such that there's a negative space framing around it of white space.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great.
Chair, if I may ask a question?
Yes, please.
Mr. Kim, I'm just, quick question. I'm just wondering if did you measure the letters on the side? Like, how did you come up with the Did you measure the signage to the left, the escrow companies? Do you know what the height of that sign is for the lettering? Is that what you based off? Or did you just try to fit into this box?
So it's just, I mean, we measured the box and whatever fits in, fits in.
Got it.
That's pretty much what we did.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so last but not least, I'd like to ask Vice Chair Lee Kwan for any comment.
No, I agree with the comments that have been said before. The one comment that I was wanting to make a point of was the sign I felt was compatible in general, and it wasn't really the issue. It's so much like the other signs, but what was really standing out was the landscaping and the maintenance of the building. And I thought of all the things we could be worried about, it was what's happening to this building. It's been slowly, the landscape has been slowly kind of going away. It used to have a lot of plantings and trees and in those open spaces. So if that could be addressed, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, fellow committee members. What I've gathered so far is that we all see this replacement of the surface is basically not changing the mechanics with the view that a 10% reduction in the lettering and the logo in totality would allow a much bigger white space around the characters in the logos, and that would make the signage very consistent with the neighboring signages. The committee also noted the lack of maintenance of the landscaping in front, and we'd like to recommend that the staff take note and let code enforcement follow through on that. And there's also a comment trying to make the automatic switch off at the timing consistent to what we have been seeing in the city, basically an hour or two after closure of the business or darkness situation, or 10 at the maximum. So hearing that, do we have a motion?
I'll try to make a motion. I move to approve design review case number DRC 21-43 2060 Huntington Drive on the following conditions. That the image, including both, that the overall image, including both the logo and the lettering, be reduced 90% proportionally overall. The
Excuse me,
second-
Goes to 90%.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Be reduced by 10% proportionally overall. The second would be the condition that the illumination of the sign would be set to turn off 1 hour after closing and at a hard stop at a maximum 10 p.m. And the third would be the recommendation to direct code enforcement to look at the landscaping of the building.
Thank you. Anybody second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Before we do a roll call, I'd just like to clarify, was there a time that you thought was acceptable for them to turn the sign back on? It's just open of business hours or?
Yes, business hour. Is there like an earliest time? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are there suggestions?
Have we done that?
It depends on the season.
Yeah, winter time could
Have
be
we
4
had that
p.m. as
condition
early
before?
as
At dusk?
summertime. Yeah, it does.
That, yes,
Dusk.
dusk.
It does.
Okay.
Is that an official time?
Perfect. Is it a sensor?
Okay, Committee Member McKay,
Yes.
Committee Member Chang,
Yes.
Committee Member Batnich,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lakon,
Yes.
and Chair Wong.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Now we are on to item number 2, design review case number DRC 21-53 at 1300 Virginia Road. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is a request to maintain an existing non-conforming front yard driveway paving area. the existing driveway area or front yard paving involve an area of greater than 25%. For that reason, the homeowner is requesting the committee to consider the complete repavement of the front yard paving area with a natural granite stone material, which he has in possession for your review tonight. And staff is able to make the compatibility finding for this property to have a front yard paving area of up to 35%. The property is located in area District 1. As such, it is allowed to have a circular driveway. And that is part of the reason that contributed to the rather larger than typical paving area that you see within the city, which is an average of about 25%. Staff finds that the natural granite stone material is compatible with the style of the home, which is a modern contemporary mid-century style, and is supporting this request. Although I have to make one correction, that in the report, there is a recommended condition of approval for the applicant to provide a hedge area in front of the circular driveway. The purpose is to screen vehicle that may park along the circular driveway for a long period of time. But since discussion with Vice Chair Lakon, it was recommended that the additional hedge area or planting area may have the potential of damaging the mature oak tree already in the front yard. In light of that, staff is recommending approval of the project without condition. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any question from the committee to staff, please? Committee member McKay?
This is just a clarification for the record. Thank you, Chair. The replacement of window material on page 2 is just a typo, correct?
Correct.
Thank
I
you.
apologize for that.
Any other question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Committee member Benich, ladies first.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering about, I have a couple questions. The first question is, do we know what the front yard paving percent of the total area of the front yard is currently?
The current total front yard paving is at 34.9%.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is, does that include, when I was walking on the driveway, I noticed there's like a central, there's an area at the peak of the driveway, let's call it, in terms of the height, that's like gravel. Is that, it didn't appear to be paved at all underneath. Is that not included in that percentage?
The gravel area is included as part of the impervious coverage. By definition, the required front yard area, in order for the city to count the area as pervious, it has to be natural vegetation material, so it has to be grass. Outside of that, any gravel or decomposed granite or simply concrete paving, those are all considered as impervious, which in this case already contribute to part of the 34.9% that I shared with you earlier.
Okay, so if the part of the, if I understand you correctly, if the gravel was turned into
Grass.
the paving,
Mhm.
then it would not increase the percentage of its current.
Correct, because it's
okay.
considered as a non-pervious area currently.
Okay, I see. And I also wanted to ask, it appears that the steps in the concrete are new. I'm not sure if I'm correct, if I am right about that, but they look like they might be new. Is this an after the fact approval? I'm kind of confused about what is going on. I understand that they want to put pavers in the driveway. Will there be pavers also on the steps, or are the steps going to remain where it is? Because the reason I'm asking is that the steps are very wide. There's already a lot of, they don't maybe need to be that wide. So if we're looking to reduce the pervious coverage, the impervious coverage, that would be one way, but they look like they're new. So I'm wondering if this is an after the fact approval.
Correct. The request for the 35% paving area is not an after the fact approval. As for the large stepping pad leading up to the entry of the home, I understand that the homeowner undertook a major remodel and project that also included some landscaping work in the front yard earlier this year, started last year and finished this year. And I'll let the homeowner speak to that. My understanding is that the intent is to maintain these large pad leading up to the home, but only to provide the granite material along the circular driveway and the driveway leading to the back.
I see, thank you.
Okay, committee member Rick Chong.
Thank you, Chair. So I also had some questions regarding the steps. My questions were steps leading on the side, but I'll ask that question later to the applicant. I have three questions and I'll just go through them one by one. The first one is, I understand that staff is now not recommending a hedge to block the view. But if I may just understand a little bit more, is that it looked to me that the hedge, if there were to be one, is actually going to be outside of the property line, right? Do we know where the property line is? Because on the plan, the simple one, it only noted the right of way, the ROW line, but it doesn't say, is that the property line?
No, the property line is actually a little behind.
Behind,
The line, the dotted line that indicated right of way line. So staff's intention was to have a hedge in this graphic provided to you that will be located about halfway in that.
when you say
green,
behind, is closer to the house or closer to the street?
closer to the. It will be closer to the home. So the
Okay.
property line is behind the dotted line that's indicated as right of way line on the plan.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I guess my question is just for future reference, could someone propose a hedge on outside of their property line? Like if they were to put a hedge and they say, okay, it's too close to the oak tree. We don't want to damage it,
Mhm.
so we want to move it to the street a few feet. So can they do that if it's just outside of their property line?
The answer is no. Although city will be, will have to react to this issue based on comments from neighbors or based on co-enforcement visiting the neighborhood. Installing a hedge or planting along the frontage of a property would not otherwise require a permit. So if the homeowner wishes to install a hedge in the future, he would not need to come into to the city for a permit per se. For a city block that is not currently improved with a sidewalk, such as this block, where part of the front yard, what you are seeing or visually seeing as part of the owner's front yard is actually part of the right of way. It will be
Mhm.
difficult for the homeowner to identify exactly where the property line starts. So in this case, the homeowner will be advised, of course, not to plant a hedge along the edge of the property because that is the city's right of way.
Okay, thank you. My second question is, I'm looking at the neighbor's response approval map with the
Yes.
checks. The property directly north of the project property, there was no indication of either approve or no response or reject. It's just blank.
I apologize for that. I forgot to check off the
So
adjacent
it is
property.
approved, okay.
Correct. The
They
property.
also,
Mhm.
okay. Third question is that my understanding is that with the non-conforming paving area in the front yard, now sitting existing one at just about 35%, 34.9, 35 is at the maximum. So it's non-conforming because it's over 25%, right?
Correct.
And Then I have this information saying that the existing condition, because I asked that question to staff a couple days ago, the answer I got was the existing condition is without prior approval by DRC. So does that mean that they did it not following the rules, or they did it, but it did not require DRC approval? So if I may just kind of rephrase it, so the existing 35%, do they have a proper permit or approval process to have it over 25% or close to maximum 35%?
My understanding with the paving on this property is that it was done in conjunction with a remodeling project that was permitted in 2020, which the homeowner undertook and completed earlier this year. So the paving was
Part of it,
approved,
but we're
was
not too
approved,
clear.
correct.
But it never went to a hearing.
correct.
So it was an over-the-counter approval.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No.
Apparently, it is an over-the-counter approval. Is it correct?
Yes, it was through a building permit process. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Any other question for staff?
I have a question.
Please, Vice Chairley.
Do you have the measurements of the frontage that does not belong to the property? Is it a certain amount of feet inward? Is there a standard in the city? Is it 6 or 8 or 10 feet? Because we've seen this before. There was the
Mhm.
same property around the corner.
Correct. That would really depends on the street width along that block of Virginia Road.
Uh-huh.
I don't have the exact number with me at this time.
So if it's a narrower street, is it more or is it less? What does the street width have to do with that?
So
Is there any,
if I understand Vice Chair Laycon correctly, the question was the distance between the property line and the right of way as shown on the plans to the
For-
committee,
the curb
the curve.
to the right of way? I mean,
Mhm.
there's a certain amount of feet that is a setback that belongs to the city, right?
Correct. Typically is anywhere between 6 on each side of the street
Mhm.
to as large as 15 feet. Mhm.
Okay, and for this property, we don't know what it is?
I apologize. I did not do the research prior to the
That's-
meeting.
Is it something that is in, that the applicant already knows? If
can
we ask the
certainly
applicant, would they know
property
that?
owner.
Because it's not indicated on this.
Correct.
Landscaping plan, this, right? It's not on there. My other question is, when the house to the north has no parking allowed on the street at all times. So it's the house, it's right at the end of this house to the north of the property line, and then all the way to Oak Grove, I believe. There's a sign on each side that says no parking on the street. So the home to the left of this can't use the frontage of their home at all to park. Is that correct?
So the property to the north?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
And why is that like that? Is it the narrowness of the street or is it?
I do not have an answer for that question. My understanding is in past site visitation staff, and I have observed other member of the public park on the right-hand side of the street and not on the same side of the project for that reason. So there
Right.
is a no parking sign along one side of the street.
So there
yes.
is no parking allowed there. So when they made this curb cut and added this concrete here, so that the resident, if they have guests to that left, they will have to park in front of this home.
Potentially, yes.
Potentially. Okay. So there, even the owner of that home is not allowed to use the frontage to park.
Not along the street.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other question for staff?
So this-
I just want to follow up on the previous question with staff. Staff mentioned this project was approved over the counter by the department for a remodeling. Was that case involved any work of the circular driveway or the driveway to the garage?
The remodeling permit also involved the circular driveway, yes.
What exactly was involved? Was it a paving or repaving or enlargement of the driveway areas?
It was not repavement of the driveway area. It was the extension of the driveway with the introduction of a new curb cut. So it will become a circular driveway. Prior to the remodeling, this property has one driveway entrance. So the addition of the circular driveway to some degree trigger the paving to be more than 25%. Now at this time is at 34.9%.
So apparently, because of the expansion of driveway areas, the 25% was over.
Correct.
Shouldn't that, with hindsight, be a hearing case?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions from
I
the
have one more
committee?
question. Can I ask a question? I have another question. Is the square footage of the front yard that the applicant is using for their numbers, is that including, it's not including, since we don't know what the amount of area, this, we don't have that dimension that belongs to the city versus the property. So how can we determine how much, what percentage is 25 to 35 is the impervious coverage if we don't know the measurements of the right of way? Because what if it's 15? And now we have an enlargement of the steps and the driveway, and I believe the driveway was even widened on the right side. I mean, how can we be accurate?
It would
tonight?
be more, wouldn't it? Be more?
Based on staff's research just now, it seems that the total right of way, the street width should be 70 feet wide. And that means from the curb to the property line on this side of the street, we'll be looking at 20 feet. So if there is a sidewalk in front of this property, the width would be, that we'll be looking at will be 20 feet. So from the curb that we're seeing today, we are going
Back 20 feet
about 20 feet back.
from the curb,
And that will be where the property line is.
so 20 feet.
Mhm.
And that's times 97, the width of the property. That property is 97 feet wide, I believe.
Correct, correct.
So that's a lot, right? So when we took into account the 35%, is that including that area or is that a percentage of the actual property? Do we know that?
So I think Vice Chair's question is
Uh-huh.
whether the 20 feet times 96 in width is included in the total space calculation excluded. That's the question.
Based on the graphic provided, it appears that the calculation is excluding the right of way area. So on the graphic that's provided to the committee, there is a green patch at the center of the graphic. At the very edge of that is noted as the right of way line. Staff has determined that that right of way line is actually the same as the property line. As you look to the edge of the curb cut for reference, where it is noted as the existing driveway approach on both the top and the bottom of the graphic, that's where the edge of the curb out at the job site. So that area will be the 20 feet leading up to the property line. And the property line is indicated with the notation that is the right of way line.
Okay.
Mhm. So our senior planner is stating that we can confirm the numbers when we get back to the office tomorrow. However, this 20 feet is an approximation based on our research, comparing it to LA County's assessor's map.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions from the committee to staff? Seeing none, I'll close this session and I'd like to ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to present the case. Is anyone?
I'm Joseph Kwok, resident of 1300 Virginia Road. I'm proposing to put 6x6 cobblestone on top of the existing driveway. And I've got a sample of the material here. If you guys have any questions, I'll want to take a look at it.
You're welcome to bring it up. It's okay. Thank you, Mr. Kwok. And I'll pass it around. Is it? Great, and I'll bring it back to you. Is there any other things you want to share with the committee?
I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you then. Now I'd like to ask if there's any question from the committee to the applicant. Committee member McKay?
Thank you, Chair. I have a question regarding the green painted poles that are supporting one of the trees in the front.
Yes,
Can you tell us about those?
has always been there. Yes, it's been there since we bought the property. It's because the tree is kind of leaning. It's a big oak tree. And there were some poles there to hold it up.
So have you, I'm sorry, were you going to say something else?
No.
Okay, have you considered or brought in an expert to consider or had an arborist come and take a look at what your project and this construction and this, paving could do vis-a-vis this fragile and beautiful tree? I'm concerned about a destabilization in terms of the project.
Yeah, because this is an existing concrete driveway and we're putting the 6x6 cobblestone on top of it. So we're not going to be anywhere near the tree.
Very good. So there is not going to be jackhammering. There is not going to
No.
be removal. So this very thick cobblestone is going on
On
top of
top
the concrete?
Yeah, on top of the concrete.
Hmm.
Well, actually, the thickness is about like, this is just a sample to show you the color. and
Sure.
The texture. The stone is actually, it's kind of irregular in thickness, but it's probably going to be a baby anywhere between 1 inch to 1.5 inches.
Okay. But again, I would like a clear answer for the record. Is there going to be any jackhammering? Is there going to be any construction tools or, machinery in cutting this granite or in applying it or putting it on there that is potentially going to destabilize that tree, which is being propped up by metal poles?
No, there won't be any jackhammer. It will be placed on top of the existing concrete driveway.
Okay. And the weight of it isn't going to impact that tree? I mean, I'm not an arborist. That's not my subject matter expertise. I'm asking questions because I really want to know. I haven't seen many trees that are propped up in that manner, and those are beautiful trees, so.
Yeah, it's a beautiful tree, We love it too.
But those poles pre-existed your
Yeah.
ownership, is that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So just to follow up, you are not having the workers take up the current concrete driveway, or any
No.
portion of it?
No,
Just put the cobblestones on top of it.
yeah.
So are you making some berms around it so that they would fix, or you glue it on?
It's going to be motor in,
It's going to be
Motor.
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 mortared,
Mortar.
mortared, okay.
Mortar.
And how is that applied? Excuse me, Chair, may I ask?
Yeah, like grouting.
Like grout,
Yeah, like,
mortar, grout,
Yeah,
like masonry work that you just have that
Yeah.
stick,
Yeah.
they have a patch on it.
like
Yeah.
bricks.
and you do a
Okay.
fireplace.
I think.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Okay. What's your become?
I have a question. When you laid the driveway, when you extended the driveway to make it into a circular, when did you do that?
2 to 3 years ago. The permit was, yeah, about 2 years ago.
2 years ago. So that was in 2019?
2000, yeah. mhm.
You made that curb then?
2019,
You did the driveway then.
2020.
Did
Yes.
you, have you consulted since you, how long have you had the property? I'm sorry. How long have you had it?
3 years.
3 years? Okay, so when you purchased it, have you had an arborist look or consult on the oak trees since you've been there?
Yes.
And when you made that whole concrete area, did you follow any kind of protection plans, or did somebody advise you on how to treat underneath the canopy of those
Yes.
trees? And are they the ones who cut I noticed that some of them are really hacked a little inappropriately, and I wondered, did you have a tree trimmer cut those, or was that something that had to be done for? Have you had them trimmed at all since you purchased the house?
We have not. There are a couple of branches of that oak tree
Well,
that is
there's
being
4
propped
oak
up.
trees. I'm talking
Yeah,
about all of them in
they're
general.
full. Yeah. mhm.
Have you had any of them touched yet, cut at all?
We had to trim some of the branches because they are hanging too low on the street. And at that time, I did ask for the San Marino tree expert, the resident tree expert, I forgot his name now, to come out. And he actually measured that. He's got a stake, he's saying that has to be 14 inches,
Mhm.
14 feet. And whatever, branches that's too low has to be trimmed.
Oh, okay.
And so we did that.
Okay, and when I'm just concerned about those trees because this has been a lot of activity around them, and you've changed the nature
Mhm.
of their environment by rerouting water, and all that impervious coverage is going to cause a lot of runoff. So I just want to make sure that you consulted with an arborist and
Yes.
that was the best way to treat those trees.
Yes, we did.
And those, I noticed maybe you put in water, drip lines or a
Yes.
soaker hose. Is that okay for the trees?
The drip lines, the landscaper, make sure that the drip lines are away from the oak trees.
How far do they have to be away? I'm not sure.
Uh,
Okay. But he did make sure they're away from.
Yes,
Okay. So when you laid the driveway and it became 35 percentage, how, was that an accident or was that something that, how did that happen?
the landscape architect made a measurement. So these are not like pulled off the head. It's actually measured and designed to make sure that we do not exceed the 35%.
But, oh, so you were already permitted 35%?
No, I'm talking about in this particular application that we are talking about.
Oh, I know, but you were allowed to go to 25%, correct? And that you exceeded to 35, and that's why we're here? Because it's over 25, is that correct?
No, this is an existing driveway
Existing from when?
from previous approvals.
So it was approved?
Actually, part of the
I'm confused.
driveway.
I thought we can't approve over 25% unless it goes to a hearing. Are we not, am I wrong? So
Staff, can you just clarify?
I thought we're
that
here because there was a
the
confusion. that-
35%.
The
that it was
plan
a-
approval and then the, I mean, when the plan was approved, because Just want to make sure we're all synced on timeline wise.
To clarify,
sorry.
the question from Vice Chair, Lay Con, any front yard paving up to 25% may be approved by city staff through a paving permit. Any percentage between 25 to 35 is subject to design review approval. And that is the reason why the applicant is before the committee tonight. The existing driveway condition came about as a result of an oversight from a previous remodel building permit that the city issued for the homeowner to undertake a remodel, an interior remodel project that also included a circular driveway on the site plan. So the current condition was permitted by city. However, we are to some degree, the homeowner is permitted to maintain this condition because it was legally permitted by city staff in the past. In this case, the homeowner wishes to replace this driveway with a new material, the cobblestone. And that is the reason why we're before this committee requesting for that permission.
So it was permitted by staff
Correct.
for 25%.
For 35%, the current condition.
That was approved, but it wasn't. by
It was
us.
approved over the counter and
You're not
the
allowed,
case
but that
brought
wasn't.
the building permit, and there was an oversight by the
Oh.
department. Therefore, that situation was not, did not
Okay.
undergo any hearing.
Can you give us 1 moment?
Sure.
I thought maybe it was an oversight of the inspection at the end. I didn't notice that it was big.
Chair, since they're
Okay, let's
talking,
continue.
maybe I can just ask if maybe when, after staff tells us whatever
Sure,
they're about to tell us, that maybe we can also ask the applicant
sure.
about the kind of history of the driveway in a way that goes, that isn't maybe in order of dates, like starting with how was the condition when you bought it, and then what happened after that.
Okay.
Because I think there's a little confusion,
Yeah,
but
I'm just
maybe,
confused.
it seems like maybe, I don't know if we can ask that without staff listening or not.
The question, I guess, is what was the condition when
Yeah,
you bought the
probably should
home?
wait.
What was the condition when you purchased the front yard?
Yes, and what proceeded, month by month or year by year after that? Like, how did it change to become the state that it's in?
How did
I
we get
also
here
wanted
today?
to ask about the little part of the driveway that has gravel, because I'm confused as to why that is the way it is, and I'm wondering if that's because of tree roots, if that somehow wasn't approved. It doesn't seem like it's paved. Someone didn't want to do the compaction there. Someone didn't want to put heavy machinery there. I don't know what the situation is, but
Can I,
It was one about drainage.
can I
don't know if we
explain?
should be
Move on.
proceeding
hold
or
on,
if we should
hold on.
wait.
Staff, how much more time do you need for discussion?
So I was receiving direction from the senior planner in light of the issue about the existing legality of the current paving at the job site. Staff is recommending that we actually continue this discussion, this hearing to a future date until we can come back with additional information. If that is the desire of the committee for
Can I-
additional information.
Can I add to this conversation?
Please.
You were, committee member, you were asking for what exactly happened. But when we bought the property, there is already some existing concrete on the property, except that it doesn't have the curb cut driveway to continue the whole circular driveway. So if you look carefully at the existing driveway now, actually part of it is very, very old.
Mhm.
It's not all new. And some part of it it's new because it has to be repaired. But not all of it it's brand new. And at the time when we get the approval for the remodel, I think there's a code section that says that 30% front yard coverage in that particular zone, it's permissible.
Staff, has that ever been the case in that time
And,
period?
and that was the reason why there was some gravel in the top of the driveway. Because that, if we do that,
Not to exceed 30%?
yes. So that was
What I was
what the
getting at.
gravel is there for.
Mhm.
It's just such that, it would not exceed the 35%.
Mhm.
And now, the gravel seems to be a big problem, not so much a problem, but it's difficult to walk on it. And ladies with high heel shoes doesn't really like it. My wife doesn't like it, So we thought that maybe doing a nice cobblestone driveway for the whole driveway, covering the whole driveway would be an improvement.
I have one
Okay,
comment.
I'm still-
Cobblestones are a little tough on heels also.
Yeah, just to say the least.
As a female who wears heels sometimes.
Excuse me.
Okay,
I- it's-
I'd
it's-
like to just
Chair-
limit to some clarifications, all right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if
you
it's
have a
appropriate to
question clarify?
continue, but
Yeah,
I
it
think.
is supposed to be continued, but if you have something you think is critical, I'll allow you to ask a question. Committee Member McKay.
I don't know, I guess since it's been, I'll just say that I'm still not very clear about the timeline of exactly how it was when you bought it and how it got filled in over the years and how this whole project really, it seems like there's some details missing and that there's some confusion, at least on my
Committee
part.
Member
But
McKay.
perhaps that's something we
Got
can
it.
come back to.
Committee Member McKay, yeah.
It's not a question for, I agree, it's not appropriate to continue with the questioning if we're going to continue this, but I would suggest that more confusion has been created. And even this last statement, because the gravel is part of, that's included. in
Right,
it. It's
so it is
included. in it.
already-
It's not,
okay.
yeah. So as staff has already, that's included in the percentage.
Right.
So
Thank you.
I think
So-
that if we're going to continue it, we need to have a
So I
lot of
get it that we
clarification.
are of the opinion of continuing the case. So may I ask if there's a motion?
Sure, I'll move to continue design review case number DRC 21-53, 1300 Virginia Road.
Anybody second?
I'll second.
No.
Committee Member Batnich,
Yes.
Committee Member McKay,
Yes.
Committee Member Chang,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lakon,
Yes.
Chair Wong,
Yes,
motion carried.
thank you. Now we are moving into case number 3, design review case number DRC 21-46 at 2375 Ridgeway Road. And Vice Chair Lee Kwan would
I'll be
have to
recusing myself.
recuse herself, and I'd like to ask alternate member Rick Chow to be a voting member for this case. And start with please.
We actually have to wait for Vice Chair Lakon to step out.
Totally.
Thank you. Design review case number DRC 21-46 is a request to remove natural wood shake roofing material at 2375 Ridgeway Road and install Certainty Landmark TL composition shingle roofing material in the Shenandoah color on the existing 2,503 square foot, 2-story single-family residence and detached garage. This material can be found on the city's pre-approved roofing materials list. However, it does not meet the prerequisite of having a composition shingle currently installed on the home and is therefore subject to design review. There is a sample of the color behind you there for you to review if you'd like. Staff is able to make the the findings required for granting approval and recommends approval with the added conditions from the pre-approved roof materials list that are applicable to comp shingle materials.
Thank you. I'd like to ask if there's any committee member have a question for staff, please. Committee member McKay.
Thank you, Chair. I would ask for the foundation or support for the proposition that the proposed project is compatible with the legal neighborhood.
There is one other home in the neighborhood that has composition shingle installed. It's located at 1286 Sierra Madre. There is a variety of other materials installed on the within the neighborhood. So it was my finding that this material would not be incompatible with all the other materials, including the home that also had comp shingle on it.
Any other question from any member? Seeing none, I'd like to then ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to present the project. Is anyone online?
I believe they are, yeah. Ms. Chan, if you could please unmute yourself. They may have stepped away from the computer. They're not responding.
Okay. Is there a way to contact the applicant through phone or something else?
We're sending them a message through Zoom right now.
Okay, thank you.
We're still not receiving a response from the applicant.
Okay, then I would move on and close the session unless the applicant comes back pretty, promptly. And I'd like to first ask if there's any public comments.
No public comment.
Okay, then I'll close the public comment session. And if the applicant is still not available, then I will like to begin the committee discussion session.
We're still not receiving any
Okay,
response.
Then we'll start the committee discussion session. Committee member Bennett.
Yes, I don't have any objection to this project, including the material and the color.
Thank you. Committee member McKay.
I can't support the project tonight. It is not compatible with the neighborhood in any way. I agree with staff report that this is a potential historic resource. I agree with the staff report that it's a potential contributor to the future potential Huntington Hill Residential Historic District. I agree that the area, the neighborhood is designed in a mix of period revival styles. I do not agree that there's composition shingle roofing material in this neighborhood, and I don't want this to be the first precedent, so I won't support it tonight. Thank you.
Committee member Tony Chow.
I could support this project.
Committee member Raymond Chang.
Yeah, I can go along with the proposal. Being a peer-approved material and looking at the picture and the condition, I think it will look okay with this particular home. So I can go along with it.
Thank you. It's obvious that this proposed material is a pre-approved material for replacement of wood shingle, despite the fact that it would require public hearing to the DRC. Indeed, the area is with many homes with wood shake roofs. However, there is also per staff finding an example of a composite shingle. And the fact that this composite shingle is a pre-approved possible substitute for wood shingle roof I myself can see the rationale of supporting this project. So is there any proposal?
Excuse me, Chair. Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Okay, I was not called upon.
Oh, sorry,
So-
my apology.
Sorry about that. Okay, I think I can support the project tonight as is. And I agree with the staff's research and findings that the proposed project meet the 10 guidelines for rehabilitation. And also the interior standard that the natural wood shake is not listed as a character defining feature of the home. This potential historic resource contributor to a historic district, potential historic district. Also, the roofing material proposed is on the pre-approved list. So based on those findings, I agree with staff's report. I can support it.
Thank you. Okay, any motion? Oh, sorry, something
Well, yeah,
from,
thank you, Chair. I just wanted to address Committee Member McKay's comments because I wanted, since she brought it up, that was something I also took note of, that this is a potential contributor to the neighborhood. I wanted to ask, I may have overlooked, the legal neighborhood. I mean, are there exclusively wood shingle? I don't know who I'm asking, but perhaps my fellow committee members, I may have overlooked, are there exclusively wood shingle roofs in the legal neighborhood?
It's wood shake, but there's there's
Oh, wood
also, pardon?
Yeah. wood shake,
On,
yeah.
on traditional and ranch homes and Tudor revival, but not on Mediterranean, where there's tile. So it's not exclusively, because there are some Mediterranean and there are some tile roofs, but we do
Like
not
Spanish
have,
tile.
we do not have the composition shingle. And Sierra Madre is not in the, is that Sierra Madre property even in the legal neighborhood? It's not, you can't see that Sierra Madre property from Ridgeway. You can't see it.
The property on Sierra Madre is located directly behind Ridgeway, which is within the legal neighborhood.
Okay, but it's not visible in the
In the streetscape, you're saying.
Right. It's this will completely alter the streetscape. It is not, there is no other precedent.
I believe the applicant may be here. Ms. Chan, if you could speak up, please.
Oh, sorry, it's my turn.
That's at the discretion of
I'll
the chair.
allow the applicant to present the case.
Sorry, any question for me?
Do you have anything to share with the committee about your project, Ms. Chan?
My project, yeah, replace the old roof. Hi. Yes,
You can continue.
yeah, my roof is very old and a lot of damage. I want to replace the whole roof. Not addition, just replace.
Okay, any questions from the committee to the applicant? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Chan. So we will just continue the discussion and continue it.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Committee Member Bennett.
Yeah, what I was noting was it has, I think that my my thought process on this was that if this had been a roof that was very high profile on a contributor to the neighborhood where the wood shake was really part of the critical characteristic of the roof, let's say like a Tudor, my conclusion would be different, but in this particular case, because the roof is not very visible, that is why I thought that it would be reasonable to have this new material. I think I may have overlooked the lack of this material in the neighborhood if I'm understanding Committee Member McKay. And so I'm a little divided on this now that I understand that. But I also don't think that the roof is prominent here, and I don't think that a wood shake roof is a crucial characteristic of this style. And the style is kind of eclectic anyway. But I do see Committee Member McKay's point.
Thank you. Is there any other member want to share additional viewpoints or insights? Seeing none, then I'd like to invite if there's any motion.
I'll go ahead and try. I'm going to go ahead move to approve design review case number DRC 21-46 at 2375 Ridgeway Road per staff reports recommendation and condition.
Anybody second?
I'll second that.
Let's have a vote.
Alternate Committee Member Chow,
Yes.
Committee Member McKay,
No.
Committee Member Chang,
Yes.
Committee Member Batnich,
Yes.
and Chair Wong.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. We will now move to item number 4, design review case number DRC 21-21 and 21-69 at 1540 Avonria Road. Staff report, please.
Can we let
Oh,
Vice Chair
of
Lake
course.
on to return?
Vice Chair Benish, come back. Thank you. Sorry for the walk.
Thank you. Design review case numbers 21-21 and 2169 are proposals to construct an approximately 325 square foot single story addition to an existing 2,176 square foot single story residence and make exterior modifications. The project site is currently improved with a 1-story single family home with an attached 2-car garage and a 9,008 square foot lot in the R1 zone, District 7. The project includes the demolition of a 438 square foot attached garage, 255 square feet of existing living area, and totaling 693 square feet. The project will add a net increase of 69 square feet of livable area and 73 square feet of ground coverage. Exterior modifications proposed to the home include the replacement of stucco and wood siding with hardy plank fiber cement lap siding with a 7-inch exposure width in the light mist color, and the replacement of double hung windows with Sierra Pacific aluminum clad casement windows in black. The project includes actions not subject to design review, including the construction of a new detached 441 square foot garage and the installation of Boral Cedar Light concrete tile roofing material in the ironwood color, which is found on the city's pre-approved roofing materials list. Staff is able to make the findings to recommend approval and recommends that the committee approve the request with the added conditions that the diamond pattern windows along the front elevation be maintained or replaced in kind, that non-egress windows shall be double hung, and that the project shall implement the tree protection plan cited in the arborist report. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you, staff. I'd like to ask if there's any question from the committee to staff, please. I have a very simple one. Is staff, can you clarify, we have two DRC case numbers here,
That's correct.
and what is what?
Yeah, 21-21 is for the addition. 21-69 is for the exterior modification.
Thank you, staff.
I would also like to add that we did receive a support letter from the neighbor at 305 Oak Street, which was distributed to the committee. And I can read it out loud at your discretion.
We have all received it, so it is okay. Thank you, staff. Any questions from the committee to staff?
Yes, I have a couple questions to this, to staff.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. My first question is the neighbor approval or response transpondence. If staff can look at the map, the approval map, my question is, across the street, two houses to the north, the address is 1475. That was not included. And can staff explain the reason that 1475 was not included?
Sure. The way the legal neighborhood is determined is we select two properties on either side of the subject property with lines going across the street to the properties on the other side. That property for 1475 would be just outside that extension across the street.
Even that is the second house, if you go across the street directly to the north, because to the south, you included two houses, right?
Yeah, so if you take a look at the map, there are two houses selected south of the project as well. And again, that extension line across the furthest south property includes what is 305 Oak Street.
So 305 Oak and then Alvanria to the north of it, then it jumps to the next house, but then it stops. So that is correct, right?
Yes, that is
Okay.
per the legal neighborhood determination in the design review guidelines.
Okay, because sometimes it seems like you will include two. So across the street, is it 3 homes or 4 homes?
It's all the homes within the boundaries of the extension line. Usually, you're correct. We do usually have more homes across the street, but if you take a look at the properties across the street, their street or their frontage, which is the width facing the street, is wider than a typical lot. So in this
Exactly.
case, that's why there's only 3 instead of
That's
the
what I
usual
was
4 or
wondering too,
5.
because it almost looks like a double lot,
Right.
like the
Yeah.
width.
It has to do with how the lot was subdivided way back when.
I see. Okay, thank you. Then I don't know if I have a second question. I thought I did. Oh, the second question is, this project had, came before the committee, September of last year, 2020, but with a completely different proposal. It was rejected. I think that was a September 12th meeting. So my question is, when a case like that, is it necessary to note in the staff report saying that, okay, this project had came to the committee before, was rejected?
Not necessarily, because it is a brand new application.
Okay, thank you.
I
Any other
would
questions?
clarify, oh, sorry, I just wanted to clarify, it is the same applicant, same project architect.
I'm sorry?
It is the same applicant and same project architect.
Yes, yes,
before
I
you.
understand that, but it was just a completely different plan. It was a 2-story.
That's
They
correct.
proposed a 2-story, and I believe the main concern was the massing at that point.
If I recall that, yeah, that is correct.
Thank you.
Any other question from the committee?
I have one.
Please, Shirley, go.
Do you know if we have any of this harder plank in the city? I'm sorry to ask you that. I just,
That's
I'm
okay.
trying to think, I can't remember any approving any or
Yeah.
seeing it that often.
Sure. I don't have a specific address, but I do know that we have homes in the city that have installed this material. Again, I've never reviewed plans specifically, but I have been to inspection sites that have used it.
Thank you.
I'm being told that there's a location at 1300 Cambridge in Cape Cod style that uses this material.
1300 Cambridge. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Chair, may I ask one more
Yes,
question?
remember Rick Chavez.
Okay, thank you. Another question to staff, again, just to understand how things work. We received a letter from the neighbor, from the Mr. and Mrs. Abbott Springer, I believe,
I have it here. Let me just.
in supporting the
Miss
project.
Maureen Abbott Sprunger. I believe.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. Very interesting history, by the way, reading it, just a lovely, lovely letter. My only question is that this letter was submitted before last year's project. It was submitted last year, so it, in a way, I'm not saying that I don't see the neighbors' support, but it seems like this project, if you look at the date, it was dated before last year's September 2020 meeting. I think the letter was submitted to the applicant June 2020, speaking of their proposed project at that time. So it's really like supporting the previous project, not this project.
The letter I have is dated October 17th, 2021. They reference having sent this letter to the homeowners previously. It may be that they reused the same letter, but the letter that I have is dated October 17th of this year.
Okay, yeah, like I said, I see the support clearly, but I was just trying to clarify. Thank you.
Any other question from the committee to staff? Seeing none, I'll close the session and invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to present the project to the committee.
Hello, could you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. My name is Adrian Kafka with Kafka Baker Architects. And I represent my clients, Danielle Takata and Jeff Herring, who are in the audience in your room today. If there are any further questions for them later down the road. So as some of you may know, Danielle grew up in this house. It was her parents' house. And Jeff and Danielle would like to make some upgrades to the house so that they can move in and raise their two small children in San Marino and the neighborhood that they're so familiar with. They're currently residents in San Marino, but in a much smaller home, and want to move into Danielle's mother's house so they can stay in the city of San Marino to raise the children there. And as you have noted, we were before your committee last year with a larger project with a partial second story addition, which was not considered compatible with the neighborhood. And so as this was denied, this is not a continuation, but this is a new application with a much altered design. We have in the meantime spent quite a bit of time with your planning department, submitting a prior iteration of what's the current design, and then getting back a list of comments, which we have decided to take to heart and all incorporate into the design that's now before you. And I won't bore you with the list, but I'll point out just a couple of things that are important. So I think the one thing to point out is that what we're demolishing was a prior addition that was not compatible with the design or the scale of the neighborhood or the house. It was kind of a long, a set of rooms and then leading to an attached garage, making for a quite massive looking structure. So by demolishing that area, and building a detached garage in the rear of the property, we hope that we're bringing the property more into the scale of what it would have been originally. And the addition, which was noted, only adds less than 70 square feet of net area to the house. In scale and shape and architecture, we are taking the style of the house and the roof shapes, the hipped roofs and the continuous eaves, and wrapping those around so that the house is consistent, not just in the front, but from all sides. We are not exceeding the height or the massing of the existing house from the front. So the addition, the height of roof of the addition is lower than the existing roof. So it's not visible from the street, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that it's not entirely compatible with the rest of the house. As far as the siding is concerned, right now, the house as is a mix of siding and stucco. And so our goal is to unify it, given that it's a rather small home. And the decision to go with the hardwood as opposed to natural wood is a decision based on environmental concerns, because hardwood is the more sustainable material. Both in that it does not use old growth trees, and it doesn't rot and doesn't require any chemical treatment. But in the look and profile, it simulates wood and it's of the same quality, durability, and density. So it's not by no means a quote unquote cheap material. As far as the windows are concerned, I'm sure you're aware that double hung windows do not comply with current code for egress in case of fire from bedrooms. The current house has a consistency of windows all around. So our feeling was, well, as we have to replace them with casement, but we're sticking with divided lights in the traditional look of the original house, we would prefer the consistency of casements as opposed to mixing casement and double hung. But it's not by any means a deal breaker for us if the committee feels that having some double hung windows reminiscent of the previous house somehow adds to the architecture, then we would comply with that. Though I just wanted to explain why we switched from all double hung to all casement, because we had to switch some of them to comply with code. There's absolutely no question that we're intent to comply with the tree report. There is a protected oak at the far rear corner of the property, and we actually already complied in the sense that we moved the detached garage forward away from the tree based on the recommendation of the arborist. So we have every intention of complying with every recommendation of the arborist. And as far as the diamond pattern window, it's kind of a similar case where, given that this is not a historic property and not every house of this style has a diamond pattern window, it's sort of a flourish that I think changing it to a window more consistent with the other windows in the house would be our preference. But again, if committee members feel that it adds to the neighborhood or the particular style of this house, then we would comply with that as well, if that's how you all decide to vote. I think it was mentioned we're using windows from the pre-approved list, as well as roofing from the pre-approved list, which is almost identical to the existing roofing. It's just that, given that the existing roofing is decades old, we're replacing it all, but not really changing what was there as far as the aesthetics or the material is concerned. It's just new. And as far as the color, the exterior color, we also chose a color that is very close to the existing color of the house. In addition, we, following the guidelines of your community to introduce some contrasting elements, we are introducing wood shutters. Those are real wood shutters that are part of the list of approved elements for this architecture. And we're proposing them in a gray tone as bringing in that contrasting element that is one of the requests in the design guidelines. And we're preserving the existing chimney, which is a very beautiful but dominant part of the facade. And we're preserving it entirely, both in its function, its shape, and its in its color materiality, which also brings another type of contrast and a color that we find very enjoyable. So with that, I'll be happy to answer questions you may have.
Thank you. And now let's see if the applicant may have anything to add before we move on.
My name is Jeff Herring. This is my wife, Danielle. That as Danielle Takata, as you guys heard, it's been her family's home for I think 35 years at this point. Just wanted to address the question about the letter. We did speak to the Sprungers again, and we did go directly and show them our new plans, and they continued to be in support. The letter from the previous application was so beautiful that we were glad that she attached it. I mean, it was kind of a shock to us when we got that letter in the first application. We didn't know all that history. It's great. For what it's worth, we've paid a lot of attention to what's been said about the property, both on the previous application, through an informal meeting, after that application, but before this application. Speaking with Marlon, one of the things that we noted during the last application, I think it was Mr. Chang that had asked about, or member Chang, that had asked about both the hardy siding and the width of the siding that we were proposing. Because initially we had a proposal of something that was a little bit more narrow. And he pointed out to us that in San Marino, the widths tend to be a little bit wider. And so that's kind of where we went with it on this iteration. I can't remember who had brought it up, but previously there was a little bit of concern because we had planned to have our house be white, and it was kind of stark in comparison to the neighborhood. And I in retrospect, I agree. And so what we did was we went back we like the color of the house now. So we went back to the color to as close of a color as we could find in that light mist. And I brought a sample of the hardy siding, actually 2 samples. Hardy siding, when you send away for a sample, they'll only send samples in a finish that has sort of a grain on it. That's not what we're doing. It's not grained, it's just smooth. But I thought I would bring it anyway because it's at least a sample of what the color is. And if you look at what the house looks like now, like you can stick this up right next to it and it's pretty close. It's not dead on identical, but it is as close as we could get. And then, like I said, that's the only way they'll send it from hardy siding. Otherwise, you can go to a Ganal lumber or something like that, which is what I did. And I asked them, hey, do you have any of the hardy siding in the width that we're talking about? They don't have the pre-colored siding, but they were nice enough to cut me a chunk of it. And I just brought it so that you guys could see it, see the color, see the weight of it, and just so how it feels. I thought that might help in making your decision. So if I can show that
Sure,
to anybody.
please bring it forward.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And while we are reviewing the hardy siding samples, I'd like to see if there is any public comments.
No public comment.
Okay, seeing none, is there any question from the committee to the applicant or the architect? Seeing none, thank you. Then we'll move on to the,
I'm sorry, I do have.
oh, you have a
couple
question?
questions.
Sorry.
Yeah. To the applicant and also the architect.
Go ahead, committee member.
Thank you.
Good job.
I think my first question, asking for clarification, is in your plan, I believe there might be a mistake. On page A 3.0, A 3.0, maybe this is a question for the architect, because the applicant doesn't really have it. So you can see this, right, actually? Yeah, please. That elevation there, should that be south elevation? I think it's noted other, it's,
I have to apologize because I had to leave my office. The one thing I don't have with me is the plans. Is Jeff looking at it? Jeff and Danielle would be able to tell if we mislabeled something. I apologize.
That, I believe that's facing north.
Because
well, it's facing north, so it's south elevation.
All right, sorry, the terminology is
Okay.
not something I know, but I know that we're
What
looking.
does it say on the plan?
It says west elevation,
Okay,
so in
so-
any case, it's not right.
So
but-
please double check. I'm pretty sure,
course.
because if you think it's facing north, that should be south elevation. So if staff has the, okay,
I have the plans in front
so
of me.
please
It-
just note
Yeah.
that.
We can
that's-
certainly make that a condition to just correct that upon financial
Okay.
submittal.
So the second question I have is in the backyard, thank you. You have a deck that's being proposed, a new deck, right?
yes,
And it says it's a permeable deck. Could you just explain what you have in mind that's permeable and what's underneath it?
oh sure. So this would not be on a concrete slab. This would be a deck on small pad foundations, and then have basically a gravel bed and compacted sand under the deck, and then have the deck be members with gaps in between. So rain would percolate through the deck and then come onto the ground and percolate into the ground.
So it's a wooden deck with gravel underneath it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then the next question is, noted in the arborist report saying that, I'll just read a little bit paragraph. Regarding the oak tree being protected, it says there's 25 inches, there's 28 inches from the proposed pool construction. 25 feet, 28 feet, sorry, from the proposed pool construction. Is there a pool construction being proposed?
Yes, a pool is considered as a later phase.
Okay, so it's not, I don't see it on your plan, right?
Correct.
Okay. So it's not noted on the plan. Okay, last question is the landscaping in the backyard. Could you just take us through a little bit? What are you thinking about landscaping in the backyard? Because you are relocating the backyard, you're demolish the current, relocating the garage, demolish the current garage, right?
Right, and currently, because the driveway curves 90 degrees to the existing garage, there's a lot of paving, non-permeable paving in the backyard. So basically, currently, if you think of like from the street going back all the way to the rear of the existing garage, 90% of that is paved. So by having the garage detached to the left, at the far left corner, we have a very straight shot of the driveway going to the garage, and then everything to the between the house and the rear property line and the driveway and the opposing property line would be planted. We haven't So we haven't selected all the plant material. The owners, and they might want to comment on it, would like to plant some trees for shade, and probably like native plants, but the idea is to keep as much of it. They have 2 children, so they want to keep as much of it open space.
So basically, from back of the house, you will go all the way to the fence, the retainer wall will be gone. And so basically, whatever is behind the new home, and also, if you're facing the property, behind the house and to the right of the driveway, that's all going to be softscape.
Correct.
Right? It's all going to be landscape.
Correct.
Plus, eventually you might have a pool.
Eventually pool, but they're thinking of a narrow lap pool, so it wouldn't take up a lot of space. And then also the front yard stays landscaped. So there would be more permeable and soft scape as there currently is.
Okay, thank you. Chair, can I ask the staff a question?
Sure.
So in the future, if they propose a pool, at that time, someone's gonna look at all the coverage again, like in terms of the the backyard impervious coverage. Because if the pool is gonna add a lot of concrete surrounding.
When a pool is proposed, we don't evaluate the rear yard coverage. Our code does not restrict or limit rear yard pervious and impervious coverage.
Oh, okay. So that's not a factor.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee Member Bennett.
Yeah, I was really surprised by the arborist report, and I was just wondering, so you have an oak tree, and I know in the previous iteration, as I recall, you were not going to be, it doesn't matter what the previous application was. In this application, you have an arborist report that says, well, it can be reasonable maybe to build up to 7 feet from the trunk of the tree. And I was just wondering, do you guys like the tree? Do you want to preserve the tree? Do you think that tree is going to remain healthy? What are you going to do to try to, I mean, it was a little surprising to me that someone would consider building right under the canopy of a 30 feet canopy of an oak tree.
I could say that we do like the tree. We don't want anything bad to happen to the tree. If you go to the property and you look into the backyard, or if you are sort of halfway on the driveway and you look back there, the tree's beautiful. And the way it's proposed is that tree kind of like frames the garage. And so our thought is it's going to look really good. Initially, we had the garage a little bit closer to the tree. We're not arborists. We didn't know, and so, and on during our last application, frankly, we just didn't know that we needed to have an arborist report. So we did have a garage back there and we didn't get a report because we just didn't know. So we had an arborist out that I think is on the list from the city of San Marino, and he came out and took some photos. And he said we were too close, and he explained that there was a rule of thumb, and for the life of me, I don't remember what it is, but I know it's in his report. I think it was 5 times the width of the tree or something like that. And he said, you need to get beyond that to feel safe for this tree. And he said the tree should be fine at that point. He also said that something interesting about that tree is that it leans a little bit, like its trunk is kind of back towards the property line, and it leans a little bit forward. I think just because that's where it gets the sun. Again, not an arborist. I'm making that up, I guess. But it seems like it makes sense.
It seems like it makes sense.
But what I was told by the arborist is that at least the roots that are stability roots on a tree like that are opposite to a lean. So the majority of those are going to be back and actually towards our neighbor's property, where the screen of cypress are. And so we wouldn't be damaging the tree by being in that 7-foot range. He also mentioned to us, I know the pool came up, and I know it's in his report also. We weren't sure if that was something that was supposed to be for you guys. I mean, we would have happily showed you exactly where it is. It actually might have solved some of the questions. It's on the other side of the backyard. So it's like if you look at the drawings, there's like sort of a deck, and then to the right of the deck, there is kind of an area where the deck just stops and there's nothing there, and it's a little bit odd when you look at that photo, but it's because the area of the pool should start somewhere just after that, and that's kind of where it would be, like a pencil shape, so it's thin but far from the tree. I guess that was a long answer. We love the tree. We want to keep the tree.
Okay. Just wondering, if it was to be a condition of approval, would you move the garage a few feet away from the tree further?
Yeah, if we had to, sure, yeah.
But may I add to it that we would need to know, based on what, given that we have an arborist, it's not kind of arbitrary, like we'll add a couple of feet or something. I mean, we would want to know what the scientific reasoning is for moving it forward. We have some space to move forward, so I'm not saying no. But as I said, it's not a matter of, I would want to know exactly why.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? I have a quick one for the architect and maybe the owner, is that if I'm correct, the architect said the window trim would be colored as gray or dark gray, correct?
The windows are a very dark colored gray, and then the shutters are more of a medium tone gray. And those are in a materials palette in your
Indeed.
package.
And from the material palette, I noted that the entry door would be of wood grain color.
Yes.
As well as the garage door would be also in wood grain color. Is there any logic you can share with us why you want wood grain color in both vis-a-vis the gray or dark gray tone of the window and the shutters?
Well, especially the front door, it's just, as you know, oftentimes front doors are not the same color as windows and shutters, and you have every example of colorful doors, red doors, in San Marino as well. And so our clients wanted a door that is a little more formal and brings a warm element into it. I'm probably sure they're open to suggestions, but that was the thinking. And then I guess the garage door was because it's basically so that we're matching the element. But again, that's by no means a must. If you feel that the garage should recede relative to the house, we would certainly consider that.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, I'll close the presentation session from the architect and the applicant. Again, ask if there's any public comment.
No public comment.
Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing session and then begin the committee discussion session. Committee member Cheng.
Yeah, I appreciate the architect and the applicant willing to work with neighbors and also city staff to, based on their past experience and their original plan. I think this is a lot closer to what the neighborhood is looking for. And based on this presentation, I don't have any problem approving this as presented.
Thank you. Committee member McKay.
I agree with my fellow committee member. It's so refreshing. It's so refreshing to hear the design guidelines cited and respected by the applicant's representative. Very much appreciate that, as well as the neighbor's letter, which was really just lovely and gave the committee such a wonderful understanding of the history of the property and the history of the applicant's family with the property. And I also appreciate the applicants taking the committee's prior comments very much to heart and being willing to discuss that with us today and share that with us today. So I can support the project. My only question would be to my fellow committee members about their feelings on the windows. I would want to hear from my fellow committee members what their feelings are on that, but otherwise I would support the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee Member Bennett.
Yes, I agree that, it's, you obviously took our comments on the previous proposal and came up with something much, much, much more compatible with the neighborhood. My only concern, which to me is a very big concern, is that, building this garage, there's going to be within 7 feet of the trunk of an oak tree. That is a 30-foot canopy spread. I appreciate that you said you would like to, preserve the tree. You like the tree. You want to sort of frame the garage with it. My understanding, I'm not an arborist. I'm not a qualified arborist. I know a lot about trees and taking care of oaks. Oaks, as you know, are protected not just in San Marino, but all over California. And I get the sense the way the arborist report was written, it's like, well, there's a rule of thumb and we'll just slap it on here. And, we're sort of not the kind of city that says, well, what is the minimum distance needed to maybe make this tree survive? And it should be reasonable that it might survive. We're more of the kind of city, as you know, growing up here or, having lived here for a long time. We're more of the kind of place that says what's the best way to ensure the health of this tree? How can we make sure that this tree survives? The tree is already in a very convenient place for someone to develop their property. It's literally on in the corner of your property. It's ideal from that perspective. You indicated that you would be willing to move it a few feet. I think a few feet would go a long way to ensuring the health of this tree that we all want to save. That might mean taking a foot off your garage and moving it over 2 feet. It might mean moving the whole thing over 3 feet. I don't know, but it seems, this rule of thumb that I think that might be a rule of thumb as a sort of blanket for all trees. And I mean, oaks go 15 to 18 inches roots, and the roots are lateral, and they go many times out laterally, many times more even than the canopy of the tree, which is unusual for a tree. Most trees go, I think, 2 to 3 times, but I have also come across this idea that, well, a tree can still survive with 7 feet from the trunk. The way it was written, I would love to ask that arborist, what would be the best way to ensure the health of this tree? Rather than what can we get away with that might make the tree survive? I understand that the arborist report is saying, well, 7 feet should be okay. I'm not really convinced that that's the best thing for your property. I'm not convinced that's the best thing for your tree. Getting it out of the right underneath the canopy is going to help that tree survive. It's also going to help prevent oak trees, which are very invasive, from lifting up the foundation of your garage and having to redo that in a number of years. So the branches of that tree are only going to grow, the branches above the garage are only going to grow bigger and longer and heavier. So that becomes a safety issue as well. You know, from many points of view, from a safety point of view, from a protecting the tree point of view and a design point of view, it would seem to make more sense to at least get it out from right under the canopy and maybe move it out a little bit. That is my only concern about this whole project. I think it was very well done overall. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee member Rick Chow.
Thank you, Chair. So I think overall, I also like to thank the applicant and the architect for presenting this project. I think obviously this is very completely different than the previous one last year. So I really appreciate that, the effort that's been put in. I think tonight we have two cases, if I'm correct, that we have the young generation, the kids went to San Marino High School, now owning the properties here and starting new families, sending kids to school here. And that's, I think, very exciting. As we all know, San Marino School can now certainly can use more students. So the neighbor strong supportive letter, very educational, full of history, wonderful to learn. I think I'm in support of the project as is. In terms of the windows, I'm somewhat neutral. I can go by, I think staff's recommendation certainly makes a point. So I'm maybe slightly leaning toward that, but I don't think it's a deal breaker, certainly for me personally. And I hear the great concern about the oak tree in the garage distance. And frankly, you know, not being an arborist, expert arborist, I really don't have much to offer. I would just trust the arborist report. That's me. I feel comfortable about that. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Tony Chow.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think this one is definitely mild, tasteful, and considerate in how you guys thought about the project. I can also support it. I think a lot of this, just recommendations wise, I think lies on the pool and the garage, which is not necessarily in our scope, but I just want to add my 2 cents in to say that, you know, with your 2 kids, you know, it might be better just to landscape and have a yard out there. I know if, you know, you're kind of considering a pool, just my own opinion is it might be a little too crowded if we really try to fit everything in that way. But overall, with the project, with the plans and what's in front of us, I can approve this project. I support this project.
Thank you. Vice Chair Laycon.
Thank you. And I want to thank the applicants as well. I think that you worked very nicely with staff and took our recommendations. And I think this project does fall within the design review guidelines. I was also very touched by the letter from your neighbor, and I thought that was very nice. So I could support it as presented this evening. And as far as the conditions go, I think the double hung window is more compatible with that neighborhood. The one point that I usually want to stick with the exact same windows, and if I had it my way, I would have them be wood windows and not aluminum clad, but those are on the list. But the diamond shape in this particular house, I'm not that keen on. I mean, I don't know that it makes that much of a difference in this particular house. So that I would be a little more flexible with that. Other than that, I could approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. It is obvious that there is a unanimous appreciation shown by the committee to both the applicant and the architect in taking into heart the comments made in the previous applications, as well as diving deep into the design review guidelines of the city. And working with the neighbors in the area is also very much appreciated. I can see that there could be further discussions about the diamond window, and I'd like to hear if there is particular motion one way or the other. But I do agree that the non-egress window staying as double hung make a little bit more sense than having the entire window series in a consistent pattern. I am also a tree hugger, and I agree with committee member Benish that it would help a long way if more rooms and flexibility is given to the root system of the oak tree. And it is actually a win-win situation because building it too close damage your newly proposed and built garage is going to cost you money and time and hassle, and the tree may not stay well, and all these are big negative to the family going forward. So on that ground, I'd like to seek staff's guidance as to how may the committee allow certain flexibility in the location of the garage to allow more rooms between the proposed garage location and the tree, if that is deemed to be appropriate, rather than give them a random number.
Chair.
I believe,
Sorry.
If I may make a suggestion, I think we have dealt with something similar before. You don't know what, until you get into it, what we have actually request, some previous application is that requiring them to, when they ready to do the dig foundation on the easterly foundation, hand dig it, expose the root system of the oak tree. If there isn't any, then there's not a problem to go ahead with it. If there are some, and then the arborist should go there, inspect it, and see if they can either bridge the foundation and protect the root system.
There's definitely on an oak tree of that size, there will be roots. There will be roots for 20 feet.
It depends on how big it is and at that position.
Oh, like if you're
Yeah.
saying if there's a certain like diameter of root.
Right, do you know how deep it is too?
Mm.
If they, because I think the foundation for the garage is only like maybe 20, 24 inches maximum, maybe even shallower on the plan. And depends how deep the root system.
Usually the root systems on an oak are 15 to 18 inches. Again, I'm not an arborist, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So what we did on the other project once before, I think it's on Carlisle, is that requiring them to hand dig it, expose the root system, have the arborist look at it. And if it has to be removed or breach across, they would at least somebody look at it instead of coming with a bulldozer and just cut everything. That may hurt the tree. But it was successful at the end. We did that before. Hand dig it, yeah. Hand dig around that, only that portion and expose the root system. So the arborist.
And in
can-
what condition would, like, what if the arborist says, well, yeah, cutting these roots and putting compaction here.
If it
is
doesn't
not-
work, then you move the garage forward. Just stay away
Which
from
would
it.
require them to
Yeah,
come
if
back.
it comes
But
at
they've
that
already
point,
expressed a willingness to move the garage a few feet over. And if that would, and they already said that there's room to move this. And if that would ensure the health of the tree, if that would add an additional layer,
I am a little
then why
concerned
wouldn't
about
we
the
just do
turning
that?
radius of the car coming in and out, because the further up you move it, the harder it is for it to come into the driveway. I mean, that's just the way I look at it. I think the architect lay it out with that understanding, stay away from the tree, listen to the arborist report.
Is it possible to do what you're saying, but have the arborist report on the condition of the roots, not just look at it and be like, well, it'll probably be fine? You know, I mean, is it possible to actually do that digging that you're talking about, the hand trench?
That would be one of the conditions of approval,
And then.
by keeping it in that location.
Yes, my question is it possible, and this might be a question for staff, is it possible to ask that the arborist, after the, what did you call it, hand trenching?
The
hand,
inspection, after the arborist inspection.
after the arborist inspection, that the arborist give a report on the roots that are there and what can be, and whether or not it would be reasonable for,
Well,
if
yeah,
it would be good for the health of the tree to continue with the whole project.
we have. the
My
cut
concern is
there.
like, is that something that can be stopped at that point? Like, is anybody gonna be like, well, then, you know, you gotta move the garage. You gotta do a whole new application, you gotta wait a few months. Is that reasonable at that point?
I think we are all on the same page. On the one hand, we want to make sure the tree would be in good condition.
Right,
Also, we don't want the applicant to come back to the committee again and again.
right.
Nor we review your progress on an ongoing basis. And we do want to and we do trust the applicant that they want to make sure the tree would be healthy. So some sort of flexibility allowing them, for example, if there's a need to move the garage back 2 feet, they can do it. Because if we approve this, they can fix with this footprint. So I think that is my logic as to what can be done, or if the garage is not part of the review.
Yeah, I would like to add that, again, that it's not subject to this review. So if they did want to come at a later date and move the garage further away, they could do that without having to come back before this committee.
Very well. So for me to conclude then, I trust the applicant is really trying to, grow the property, grow the family in the location, and the tree is an invaluable asset to many generations to come. So we rely on you and your good faith to do the right thing with your professional team. And we would not over-labor you on this location issue, and I can see merit of supporting this case. So may I ask if there is any motion?
Chair, can you clarify that one more time? So we keep the garage as is at the proposed location?
The garage is not part of the review.
Correct.
That does
So-
not mean, however, if I understand correctly, that if I am not stating this, I'm actually asking. If this is hard for me to express, but if the applicant has indicated a willingness to voluntarily agree to that condition, can that be part of this approval?
It can be, yes.
Okay, so we could,
Then we would need the quantifiable revision from the applicant as to what they want to do. Correct, staff? Please.
I would recommend making maybe a suggestion that, since we're talking about the roots, but maybe also the drip line, that you could see if they'd be willing to do a voluntary condition that the garage be out of the drip line. Would that be in satisfaction with the board?
absolutely.
Okay.
There'll be a big improvement, right?
From my
And
point of view, yes.
You would want to then check with the applicant if that is something that they would be amenable to. The only thing would be fire safety. I think we asked for a 10-foot, it's going to be more than 10 feet. Just separation between buildings. So, as long as it's still within code. So.
So it would still be within code.
If it would, yeah.
Yeah.
To the greatest, basically to the greatest extent possible away from the drip line.
Right.
Yes, please.
Yes.
So the problem that we run into with that, and it's not that we're not willing to move the tree, it's just that, as I mentioned before, the tree leans forward. So that drip line, if I understand drip lines correctly, leans forward to like sort of a massive part of the property. I understand what you're saying, that the trunk itself isn't an ideal location for the property, but the drip line actually takes up a huge area of the property. And so that would.
And there are no other trees in that backyard area, if I understand correctly.
Right.
Okay.
That would be a concern for us. That's a significant move forward, especially as was mentioned, when it comes to trying to park cars in a 2-car garage, going past the driveway itself is really narrow, and it's hard to it's going to be hard to arrange your car, get in and out without
If I
running
can
into something.
ask you, so knowing that any further distance away from the trunk of that tree is going to help the long-term prospects of that tree and possibly give you a little bit more safety in terms of not lifting the foundation and in terms of branches not falling on your garage, that kind of thing. Knowing all of those things, how many feet away from the trunk would you be willing to move it?
Can I have a minute?
Sure.
I mean, I'll have an answer in 10 seconds, but
It's up to the chair.
Sure, go ahead.
thanks.
I would like to add the applicant's representative is raising their hand and would like to add something, if
Sure.
you'll allow it.
Okay,
Thank you very much. I like the suggestion of involving the arborist during construction. We have done that before on protected trees. I mean, I feel that's a more scientific approach than just saying, okay, we'll give you an extra foot. Like, we will give you an extra foot, or we can say, as you were saying, as reasonable. I mean, there's not just the distance of 10 feet. There's also the backup space from the garage. That is a code requirement. And I can't tell you right now where that gets us into the issue of not being able to pass the house. So we know we have some area to move the garage back, but we can't violate other codes by doing that. So again, we have an arborist report. I understand that maybe in some of your minds, it's cutting it close. I don't, by the way, read it as, oh, well, the tree may survive. That wasn't the reason to get an arborist that's approved by your community.
That wasn't my intention to make any sort of accusation. I was just
I
the
mean-
way it was written was,
So I would say, Jeff and Danielle, it's your decision, but that we will make every attempt to move the garage forward while complying with other codes and constraints on the site to exceed the 7 feet that are required in the arborist report. By the same taking, if an excavation, we find a major root unexpectedly in the area where we're planning foundation, we have done what the member suggested and bridge that foundation, bridge that root with the foundation. So again, we're certainly, I mean, I don't know if that means moving the garage forward as much as reasonably possible, plus bringing the arborist back during construction. I would feel more comfortable with that than just saying, well, 2 feet, and then we cut a major root and the tree dies. It's like, well, then why did we go through all that effort? So I'm just trying to sort of keep it somewhat scientific how we're approaching this. That's all. But there's flexibility on our end.
but I think the concern of the committee, if I've understood my fellow committee members, is that if the arborist comes and, looks and says, well, there's really an awful lot of roots here. And so now we're going to have to go back to the city and we're going to have to make a new application as to where this garage is going to be located. And then that might add months to your project. So we're trying to maybe balance.
Okay.
I'm not speaking only about myself, but.
Sorry. I defer back to Danielle and Jeff. I'm certainly, as I said, there is a constraint of the backup space. There's only so much we can move it forward, but we certainly can, if it's like as reasonable as possible, or as reasonably possible, if you wanted to add something like that, I think we can.
and Committee Member Chang has a comment to make.
Yeah, if I may just respond to what I heard. That foundation should not delay the project at all. As a matter of fact, when they're ready to build, they need to pour the footing anyway. They need to dig around the footing. My suggestion was to ask the applicant to hand dig that area where the tree is, which is the easterly footing. You just hand dig it. You saw cut it, you
Right.
remove it, you expose the root system
Right.
based on the foundation, the engineering foundation, the depth. If there is no root system, there's not even a concern. Go ahead and proceed with the foundation, with the work. Because the depth of the tree, we don't know how deep the root system is. How far does it go? If it's below. the
Typically, it would be 15 to 18 inches below the soil for an oak tree.
Okay. It may.
It would go down that deep is what I
Right.
mean.
But they may be down 12 to 14 to 16 inches, depending on engineering report on the one-story garage.
I guess what I'm wondering is, what would the report have to say to trigger? No, this is not good for the tree.
The arborist will be there to look at after they expose the root system, the foundation. And if there is major root system that go through that foundation area,
Mhm.
then the architect and the structural engineer can easily look at that and say, okay, we're not gonna cut the root, we're gonna bridge around it, we're gonna protect the root. Or even if you move it forward, you will determine what is the proper location to move it forward. That
And
doesn't change
that would
anything.
require them to come back to the city and make a new.
No, if you
No.
already allow them to move forward a couple of feet to avoid that, why would
Oh,
they have to come
you
back?
mean a part of our approval would allow that?
Yeah, they have the option to move forward to protect the root system.
Mhm.
Why they have to come back? They don't have to come back.
The garage is not part of our pavilion, so
Right.
they would have to.
But-
It wouldn't take months anyway, correct?
It would be simply to provide a revised sheet that shows the new location of the garage.
Okay, so that would not be something that would,
No,
delay.
It would not
project.
delay the project. We did
What
exactly
did you-
that at Carlisle.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to add something real quick. I'm sorry. It's going to be short. I think the possible solution Committee Member Chen just brought up, it's certainly possible. I also just want to clarify my personal position is that I don't really have a problem with what's being proposed. And like I said, I don't know, I'm not an expert arborist, so I'm comfortable with the arborist report. Just want to clarify my position.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys all saw this, but the arborist report listed some conditions also that we needed to follow. And part of those included, don't cut roots that are more than 2 inches in diameter. And having an arborist on scene to make sure that's what happens. So, and I know that the staff had recommended that a condition of our approval be to follow those rules. And whether it was or not, we would be following those rules. We want to keep the truth. So, and yeah, that's all I'll say.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions from the committee? If none, then I'll like to see if there is any motion.
I'll go ahead and make the motion then. Let me give it a try. I move to approve design review case number DRC 21-21 and 21-69 per staff recommendation and condition of approval. As a suggestion, we would recommend the applicant to hand dig the easterly footing where the oak tree is, expose the root system, and have the arborist go inspect that portion of the root system that is being exposed and make proper recommendation. And even if it involve in moving the garage forward or westerly, the applicant can work that out with city staff. It does not
So
have to come.
my understanding when you first brought up the idea of this was to make it a condition. And I am on board with that. I'm not on board with the suggestion.
I thought the garage is not part of these purview of the approval, is it?
It's not, but you can make a condition.
Okay, then I'll make that one of the conditions. then. If that's okay, I'll make it one of the conditions with that the applicant is gonna work with that.
Committee Member Chen, could you also add the condition as staff noted earlier that there's to correct the mistake in the plan, the elevation mistake?
Noted, yes,
Yes.
the mistake of the elevation
Thank you.
destination will be corrected accordingly. So that would be the added condition.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
thank you. Let's have a vote.
Committee Member McKay,
Yes.
Committee Member Chang,
Yes,
Committee Member Batnich,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lakon,
Yes.
and Chair Wong.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Now we are moving into item number 5, design review case number DRC 21-06 at 1925 on Robles Place. Staff report, please.
Thank you. Design review case number DRC 21-06 is a proposal to construct an approximately 505 square foot single-story addition to an existing 1,427 square foot single-story residence. This is located in 1925 Monroe-Bliss Place. The project site is currently improved with a one-story single-family home with a detached one-car garage on a 7,680 square foot lot in the R1 zone, District 7. That's a correction from what's shown on the agenda as 2684. Of the 505 square foot addition of livable area, 442 square feet will be a conversion of the existing lot coverage, which includes a 76 square foot covered porch, 256 square foot enclosed studio, and 110 square foot enclosed patio. The additional 63 square feet of new lot coverage include a 17 square foot expansion of the proposed family room and 45 square foot expansion into the kitchen. Staff is able to make the required findings for granting approval and recommends that the committee approve the project with the added tree protection guidelines found in the arborist report. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. I want to see if the committee had any question for the staff at this point. Seeing none, I'd like to invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to present the case. Thank you.
There we are. All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Tommy Winslow. My wife and I live at 1925 Montrose Place. I grew up in San Marino. I was class of 2006. My parents still reside at Canterbury Road. My grandma lives at West Haven Road. So when we purchased this home in January, it was in quite a bit of disrepair. But my wife and I are very excited to start our family here and see where it goes. So we've been slowly restoring the interior of the property, and we'd like to make a small addition to the rear of the residence. Beyond the addition, we'll replace the roof and rebuild a structurally unsound chimney. We're very committed to ensuring architectural consistency, proper scale, and neighborhood compatibility. The project will not change the overall building height, setbacks in any direction, or anything visible from the street. It's hard to see the colors here, but ultimately, I know you've seen this in the drawings here. The new construction will sit almost exclusively within the existing lot coverage. To put this in perspective, livable area will increase 505 square feet, but overall lot coverage will only increase 50 feet. This is accomplished by demolishing a 1985 permitted addition of a rear covered porch and studio. Ultimately, we can convert this existing lot coverage to livable area to provide for a back entry or sunroom, an expanded kitchen, new family room, and it allows us to relocate and slightly reshape bedroom 3, while converting the area previously allotted for bedroom 3 into a second bathroom. The addition will be a raised foundation to match the existing, which enables us to have a single floor plane throughout the home. On the rear facade, we'll construct new rear-facing gables with the roof style on the existing structure. On each rear gable, we will custom mill trim and roof vents to match the existing details. For the exterior walls of the addition, we will use wood siding that matches the preserved siding and build custom windows with identical colonial grids to match the existing style. No existing original windows are being replaced, and new windows are limited to the rear facade. The existing roof on the original structure is cedar shake, and we propose to re-roof the home and the garage with cedar shake that matches the original. This will keep a consistent look throughout the completed home and fulfill our desire to maintain the style of the original home. While the rear yard setback is unchanged, the rear roof line is. So in considering the privacy of our neighbors, we benefit from the fact that there are 5 existing cypress trees above 30 feet in height that align to the exact location of the new larger rear gable. Beyond that, we do plan to plant additional foliage, including at least 4 additional cypress trees along the rear property line, as well as multiple trees along the south-facing facade. Also want to note that our proposal reduces impervious lot coverage in the rear yard and increases both greenery and privacy for our neighbors. I'm quickly just going to share some reference photos. So you can see here, it was built in 1924 in a minimal traditional architectural style. Very quaint home, but it's fallen into disrepair, has solid bones and a lot of original details. To give you perspective on the level of disrepair, it was declared a public nuisance by the Planning Commission in 2017, and it was being sold as land to be demolished. It has been abandoned and empty for the last 4 years and was not properly sealed. There was another major rat infestation, which was very fun, in the garage. And the side yard fence had fallen down, and our neighbor said had been down for at least 2 years. As we go to the next slides, we're going to look at, this is the location of the rear addition. This is an actual picture of the 1985 addition that was kind of tacked on to the back. This will be demolished in place of the main larger rear gable, which will essentially sit in the same footprint. This is the looking into where the kitchen area and back rear entry will be. There's a breakfast nook that's there that will be expanded to the right to make the kitchen area rectangular. We do lose that citrus tree, which we can talk about later. And then the next slide just shows this will be the new back entry, which will be enclosed and rebuilt. Just another showing quickly of the interior, the kitchen that we're going to remodel. Wow. Very excited to do that. And then the bathroom as well, which I have no idea what happened in there. Moving on, we're going to look at just some of the elevation drawings quickly. I know you've seen all of these. Ultimately, this is the east elevation. This is the front of the house. It's hard to see on the screen, but it's the same elevation drawings you all have in your plans. There are no changes to the front elevation from the road, and no visibility to the addition that is being made. This is the rear elevation. Again, hard to see on the screen, but ultimately this is where almost all of the changes are visible. This is the only facade with new windows. All other facades only show the original windows. You can also see the two new gables that have the same roof pitch as the gable in the front and the whole cross gable across the house. Ultimately, there is a transition roof. There's a transition over the expanded kitchen, but it's hidden in between the two new gables, so it's not visible from either side elevation. There are, if we go back one slide, there are French casement windows proposed on the larger of the two rear gables. This is to meet egress requirements for the bedroom 3, which will be in the right corner of that addition. This matches the French casement that is already on one of the sides of the house directly next to where the other French casements will be. If we go to the next slide, we will see this is the driveway side. You can slightly see the two new gables from the north elevation from the driveway. And if we go to the next slide, this is where you can see the south elevation. And this is where there's a mix of double hung windows and French casement windows, original French casement windows. That solo window, it's window 7, is a relocation of an original window that is currently hidden in the 1985 addition, but we will retain it and relocate it, and it will match exactly on that facade. So that's really what we wanted to kind of walk through quickly. I know you've all seen this, but in closing the narrative, we want to thank you for taking the time to review our plans. Our intention is to restore and preserve the integrity of this great property that has been sadly forgotten. We think with our proposed changes, the home will allow us to start our family with space to grow in this city that we like.
Thank you. Appreciate your presentation. I want to see if there's any question from the committee to the applicant. Any question? Seeing none, I want to thank the applicant again for the time and the presentation made. Right now, ask if there is any public comments received. Is there a public comment to be made?
Doesn't look like there's any, no.
Thank you, staff. Then I'll close the public hearing and then start the committee discussion session. I'd like to first hear from the committee member McKay, please.
Thank you, Chair. What I hear from the applicant is resolve. I mean, where others might have come in here and said, we're going to knock this property down. We're going to start new construction. We're going to completely alter the property. What I am hearing is a San Marino native wanting to start a new generation in San Marino and respect the architectural integrity of this home and see beyond what had happened to this property, which is dreadful. And just to forge ahead with the best of intentions. So I really appreciated the presentation, and I don't have any questions at this time, but I'm eager to hear from my fellow committee members if there are concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee member Tony Chow.
Not much to add on. I think this is super well thought out. I think you really do have appreciation for this property in this neighborhood. And it's going to be a major improvement to what it is right now.
Thank you. Committee member Rick Chow.
Thank you, Chair. First, I just want to say thank you, Tommy and Mallory, for your patience, staying late, and especially Mallory, and congratulations, expecting your first child. Thank you. I think this is a project that I think I'm very excited about. I think it's there are many levels. I think when I visited the home, I was taking some photos outside. So and Tommy came out and invited me to the back, and he explained to me a little bit more. And knowing that the home, and then at that time I learned that the home was abandoned for 4 years. But you can see the character in the house. Then Tommy showed me, he explained to me that they had restored, I don't know if the whole hardwood floor or just partial. And he just opened the door and showed to me. And it was completely ruined by animals and other things, as you saw in the photo. But just from that one part they redid, the floor is just beautiful. I mean, just beautiful. So I just felt very good about this project. I think Tommy and Mallory, they're doing a fantastic job. Like committee member McKay just mentioned, not going there just like, oh, wow, just, take it all down and do it all and thing. Really bring it back to this wonderful shape. I think everything is so thought out, being at young age. I'm very impressed personally. Adding trees, gardens, cedar wood shake. I think this is the first one, right? First one in front of our committee actually want to keep the cedar wood shake. So all in all, I can go on, but I think this is a wonderful project, and I'm really happy that this house is literally getting saved, and it's going to look really charming and beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee member Bennett.
I have nothing to add. I completely agree. This is a wonderful project, and I'll be really looking forward to seeing it on that street. I think it'll look wonderful, and it's a little refreshing to see someone showing that even something in extremely bad condition, as you've outlined and showed us, which I wasn't aware of. I could just see it from the outside, of course. That you don't have to bulldoze something. You can often save it. So yeah, I could approve this as presented this evening.
Thank you. Committeemember Chang.
Yeah, it is a pleasure to see third generation San Marino residents coming back, appreciate the neighborhood and maintaining something was there and try to keep the character of the neighborhood. I think it really is a pleasure to see that. So I think you've done a great job on it, and I think it will definitely will add a lot to the neighborhoods. So I can support it without any problem.
Thank you. Vice Chair Lakon.
I agree with everyone. I think this is a great renovation, a great addition. I think that they're adding what the house can handle. They're making the changes that are appropriate for the house. And maintaining the wood windows and all the original details of the house, I think will improve the value of the home more than all the other changes that could have been done. We've talked about in the past. I think it'll improve the value of the home and the neighborhood, and it's something that's really great. You guys are doing this, and it's going to be a great change for the entire neighborhood and for that house especially. So thank you.
Great. I also want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Winslow. I mean, your 2-page narrative is so helpful and easy for at least me to understand your motivation, rationale, and roadmap to get this project done. And you come in with full preparation, with good research, in particular, helping everybody to understand that cedar wood shake is good, can be good, can stay a long time, and debug a lot of the other misinformation or whatever, and that would really keep the character of the property. And the way that you rationalize the property and have minimal impact on the footprint, but really make it really functional for your family and your needs, that is really refreshing. You guys know what to do, and I wish you can help more applicants to do it in a similar way, and that would be great. I'm sorry that you have a lot of Mickeys running around, but it sounds like your magic wand is working. So I cannot wait to see how this is going to turn out to be wonderful. And I have no reservation and hesitation in supporting this project. So may I ask if there is any motion for the project, please?
I have seen a few wood chip roofs going in. I've seen maybe 4 in the neighborhood, in the city. I'm sorry. So, and they look beautiful.
That's great.
I guess they're all class A, B, whatever the requirements are. They look beautiful. And I did have one on my street that it's a 1926, very steep French cottage, and they could replace part of it because only this part that hits the sun needed it, and it does age nicely. So it's something that can be worked around when part of the roof needs to be done, but the other part doesn't. You can change part of it, but not all of it, and
Right.
it slowly fades to match colors.
Yeah,
So
that's-
that's something that's limber.
That's great. So we want to
Environmentally
make a
friendly.
motion?
So
Are you going to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. We can say there's no other ones, but there are, they just haven't been here. I'll make a motion to approve DRC case number 2106, 1925 Mont Robles Place, with the condition of, as presented, with the condition of the tree protection plan.
Anybody
what I-
second?
I'll second the motion.
Yes, sir.
Sorry about that. Committee-member McKay,
Yes.
Committee-member Chang,
Yes.
Committee-member Batnick,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lakon,
Yes.
and Chair Wong.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations. Great. Now we're going into the other matter section, which is item number 6, consideration of roofing products for the pre-approval roof materials, colors, and applications.
Thank you, Chair. This item is a discussion item for the committee to consider 3 roofing material that staff has introduced to you on the staff report. I am saddened to report that one of the roofing material representative is not available. He is based in Ohio, and because of the time difference, he's not available to join us today. We do have one representative from GAF, the manufacturer, and he will be discussing the Grand Sequoia product to you. The material board is available against the wall for you to review. And additionally, we are also bringing forth a material that the committee have seen many times before, and that is the presidential TL material. This material is not currently on the list. However, from prior application to the committee had approved the use of this particular product, the TL product, for installation in the city, and those addresses are provided in the staff report. So in considering new material for addition to the pre-approved material list, in addition to the visual appearance of the material, staff is also reminding the committee that there are other safety consideration that we take into account, in addition to the ability of that roofing material to successfully dispose of water. Staff is looking for direction from the committee, and once we receive that direction, we will provide it, the information to the Planning Commission, who is the body that will ultimately allow the approval of these material on the pre-approved list. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll suggest we make a quick pause as a committee member Chang is in the washroom just now. So we'll give a few minutes, okay?
Maybe we can just.
Okay, just take a look and we can move around a little bit. Right here, it's right here. Is this? Party board.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
We're waiting for you, Raymond.
I'm sorry.
No, don't feel bad. I'm only trying to feel bad.
So we're taking a couple of minutes break.
Yes, you helped us do that.
Oh, okay.
They said we're waiting, so I said, let's get up and let's- We're almost done. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, of all the competition. It's good if you otherwise, if it's just flat, help you because of the shell. If they have to go with this.
I mean, I would. There's four. So the first one is not. It's those two.
Upright.
No, actually, both of them, I guess it's repeated, so it's just stage work versus voice. Yes, they're the same. Yeah, I don't know why they're.
I think they want to kind of show you a comparison.
Yeah, because they're so similar.
The meeting still on Zoom?
It's still on Zoom, so you guys are having a silent discussion right now, which is, even though this is not. We can look, yeah. We can reconvene if you want. We can.
You can put it here. I think. Somebody can.
Okay, let's reconvene. We have heard from staff the history of how these new roofing material proposal came through. And we have some represented. First of all, is there any questions to staff about this item? Seeing
I
none.
do have a
Well,
couple.
yes,
Go ahead.
yeah, there are questions.
Please, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, my question is, I just don't see how we can make a decision based on samples. I'm not comfortable with that. It is a very limited selection that is currently approved. This is true. But there's a reason for that. And I feel that at this hour and at this, with just literally samples, not seeing them as applied, not having a full presentation, I'm not sure why this is on the agenda, not as a informational, which it's not even going to be because we don't have a presentation, but as a decision point tonight. I don't feel that we have enough information that we can be equipped to make good decisions. That's my opinion.
There will be one representative, correct?
Correct. We do have the GAF Grand Sequoia Products representative available via Zoom, and he's prepared to answer question from the committee regarding manufacturer warranty, what it covers, the specific detail of the product itself. However, I do understand that the committee feels that additional information may be needed. And in addition, Vice Chair did mention earlier to me that it will be very beneficial to hear comments and testimony from an actual roofing installer in terms of their experience in installing composition shingle roofing material in the city. If the committee so desire, we can certainly table this for an informational section in order to help guide along and facilitate the discussion that's to come.
I mean, even vis-a-vis this presentation of this person who's here tonight, are there examples of it is applied at this address?
Yeah, that's
where
what I
we
would
can
like.
go
to-
and
is a-
see it.
A list of addresses before the
Right.
meeting would have
And
been
how
so
exactly,
helpful.
and to prepare as we prepare for even ones that are on the approved list, we go and see where it's,
Correct.
it is.
Staff did make that request to the manufacturer's representative because they work with wholesalers. So they don't actually, it will be difficult for them to obtain the install location as to each contractor that have purchased from the wholesaler. We can certainly press for that information and hopefully it will be obtained and provided to the committee for consideration. As we know, these the two material on the list in the staff report are not installed in the city.
Staff
Correct, but
yes.
what about Pasadena, South Pasadena,
that's right.
Altadena,
South Pass.
Alhambra?
Well taken. I'm not sure if staff has shared with us the history of this process. Is that how the then mayor Gretchen tasked Aldo to then form a task force? Maybe you want to start from there on so we know why these things come to us.
So if I may provide a little background on this item, about 2 years ago, it became apparent that the material available on the city's pre-approved list is quite limited, and several homeowners have expressed concern that it becomes a sourcing issue. It'd be difficult to source the material, and the price point was higher than desired. At that time, then Then Mayor Gretchen Rami Shepherd. Gretchen.
Shepherd-Rami.
I'm sorry, it's quite late. Had worked with our then Community Development Director to form a ad hoc committee, which comprised of, at that time, the Planning Commission Chair, John Dustin, another Planning Commissioner, Howard Brody, and a local architect, Jennifer Gile, to start searching for possible material that may be equivalent or similar to composition shingle material that we have on the second page of the pre-approved material list. And the idea is to provide more option to homeowners that would like to consider composition material and to allow these material for issuance over the counter via building permits. And of course, this is not to remove the additional condition that we have already on the list. As you see on the second page of the pre-approved material list, there are 10 conditions when a homeowner is installing a composition shingle material. So essentially, we're moving condition number 1, the requirement that it will require the home to be improved with a composition material now in order for the homeowner to replace it with a composition material. But all the other rest, the rest of the conditions, all the 9 conditions would remain in place if so instructed by this committee.
Thank you. Great. So let's see if there are other questions from the committee, please.
Yes, I have a couple questions regarding the existing pre-approved list. So if you could, if you have it in front of you, I just want to put in front of staff again, because I had sent this information to Ms. Choi before. I just want to kind of remind you again, I believe that the simulated on the first page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th one down, the Burrell Monterey Shake, I believe that has been stopped. So that material is no longer available. So I've spoken with the rep directly. So if you could make a note and just verify that again, because it's not on its website. And I've spoken with one rep a couple months ago when I asked Eva, so at that time. So please just double check that.
Following our discussion on Committee Member Chow, staff did reach out to Burrell, and we are waiting to confirm, to get confirmation that this product is no longer in production. Several other residents have brought this issue to our attention as well, and the goal is to potentially, if that is true, in fact, confirmed by the manufacturer, we will take this chance to remove this item from the list while we are potentially adding other items on it.
Sure. And then the second one is on the second page, the second material, the Certainty Presidential. Whenever applicants, at least in recent projects, propose presidential, Certainty Presidential, the committee always, if I'm correct, recommend the presidential TL. So my question is that, is this the time to potentially maybe remove the presidential and just replace it with TL? That's just a question.
That is an option and up for discussion by the committee, and staff will, of course, accept your direction if you wish to remove this, recommend this product, particularly presidential product, for removal from the list if the committee is inclined to provide the presidential TL product as part of the pre-approved material. And just as a follow-up, Chair Wong had asked me to research into how the presidential product came to be on the list. And I had a chance to check with the manufacturer, presidential TL and the presidential product were both made available to consumer at the same time, roughly in 2010. So I don't have a reason as to why the presidential TL product did not make it on the list initially. But they were both manufactured and made available at the same time of the year.
I also like to just follow up on committee member McKay question. I think it's definitely kind of the elephant in the room. So because I was also wondering, what's the expectation from us? Because when I look at this, I'm really like, well, I can look at the colors, maybe particular colors wouldn't fit a particular home. And I talked to Raymond. Raymond thinks the material is good. I'm like, okay, material is good, Raymond says. Other than that, it's really a hard call to make. So I'm not too sure what the expectation is. I did whatever I could. I went on the website, for example, the GAF website, and the information we received, there are, I think, 5 or 6 colors, but on the website, there are only 3 colors available. So it's stuff like that, certainly availability down the road, that'll get narrowed down, excuse me. And certain roofing materials are only available in certain area code too. So anyway, just random thoughts.
I'd like to maybe help set the stage a little bit. I probably could have done that earlier. As I understand, the committee has been struggling with hearing different proposals or materials not in the pre-approved list. So we have to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. And supposedly the pre-approved material list is to be revised on a regular basis, but in my terms, it has not been revised.
Right.
But in any event, the planning, I'll say the ad hoc committee tasked by Aldo and then Mayor Gretchen now came up with 2 brands with certain representatives available to present to us the merits of the products. For me, I make a matrix on various factors: guarantee, transfer guarantee, lifetime guarantee, wind speed, weight, all these things, so that at least I can compare these candidates with what is in the pre-approved list on the same material base, which is synthetic shingle, and see if at least they are comparable or if the presentation would satisfy certain criteria that I have, and maybe consider revising this list at least to a reasonable degree so that we are not limited to what is available in the market or in the list. We are, I think, welcome to ask any question, including whether your particular line series is available or still in manufacturing. So I think all these are valid questions for the committee to ask the representatives and see if we can come to certain conclusion tonight. If we do, there would be a recommendation or a motion be reviewed by the planning commission. Then they will look at it and see if they would agree and then revise the material, pre-approved material list. That is my understanding, staff, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
Any question?
Well, I hear what you're saying. I appreciate it. I am not able to make any kind of assessment based on these pictures tonight and with the 2 that I've never seen before. I also was under the impression that this whole process that we've been waiting for was to show us options other than, I didn't know it was limited only to this composition shingle. I thought it was just an overall more options because we had been seeing so many different things come to us that we didn't like, so that maybe there was something out there. So this isn't anything new and earth shattering. I just think it's asking us to put something on we've never seen before and to hear about it from the representative, which I appreciate, but at the same time, that's not really going to help me. We can hear him, but it's not really going to make me come to any decision this evening.
From my perspective, I'm just taking this for what it is, that we have some samples in front of us. We don't have addresses to go visit, but I did some due diligence. I looked, of course, at the brochures that were sent to us. I went on the websites. I tried to educate myself. I tried to just Google, sometimes you can Google like homes that, regular homes that, sometimes a homeowner will put a picture of their place. And I found these two products to be very promising and interesting. And I would like to, for me personally, to be able to recommend it or suggest that we sort of send this up to planning commission or whatever the process is. I would first want to see these products in several different colors on actual houses in this area. It doesn't have to be in San Marino, of course, but somewhere within reasonable driving distance, maybe within 15, 20 minutes away. Then I would be able to, but I also am wondering why we're only seeing two different lines or manufacturers. It would be nice to see more and review all of them at once. Just give us tons of addresses and let us go and look at them. And I think based on that, I would be comfortable with if we had addresses to go look at, I would be comfortable to make those recommendations. But today I wouldn't. But I think that these two products look very promising based on my research so far. That's what I say. But I'm also interested to hear more and learn more today as much as possible.
One more question for staff.
Go ahead.
For the homes that are on the historic resources list, the survey, if the ones that have been that are individually significant or contributing to the district, are there going to be any kind of direction given to the homeowner? Let's say that they own the Wall Sniff house on Woodstock with that's a wood shingle. Are they going to be able to put on anything from the list that, even if it's not appropriate for the house? Well, is there any kind of oversight for any of the, or will there be anything, or is this not part of the topic tonight?
So Neil here. So the houses that are on the survey are basically houses that are on a windshield survey. They're not actually deemed historic, and we can't necessarily consider them historic depending on what they're coming in for. So we don't have something in our ordinance that would require, something that is ministerial to limit the options.
I understand.
And does that answer your question?
Yeah, I understand. That's what I was wondering. So
Yeah.
we are just going to be adding more things that could potentially.
You're adding to a list that any home right now
Right.
that isn't limited in options is
Mhm.
allowed to pick from.
Mhm.
I'm gonna get back up, but let me know if I need to come back.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask staff maybe a couple of questions. One, these two products are recommended by the ad hoc committee. Owens Corning and GAF are both long-term manufacturer. They've done many years producing this type of material. Is it possible to ask them? I understand that they do not do the installation. They sell it to the distributor sell it to the roofer does it. Can we reach out to them and ask them, see if they can reach out to their distributor and find out sample homes in the San Gabriel Valley that can share us with some address that we can go by and take a look? That would make a lot more sense if we can do that.
And local roofers.
Yeah, all local roofers that use this product. I think we really I think it will help if we get to actually see a product in a home that the style, the look, the feel, how it's being manufactured on the cap and the valley. So I think it's important to see those rather than tell our residents, try it, and then they made a mistake and they don't like it.
And once you're on the
Exactly.
list, you've told me in the past, it's not easy to get something off the list. It doesn't happen easily or frequently at all, right?
Well, 20
Once
years
it's on,
later,
it's on.
Once it's a mistake, it's 20 years.
No, we
Or
can
15
take it
years.
off. You want to take TL off, I mean, the person line off, we can just take it off. But I think maybe as a follow-up, as the ad hoc committee came to the conclusion of recommending these two to us, was there a process that they can share with us? Was they just
Right.
based on samples or internet search, or they did go look something? I mean, we don't have to reinvent the whole wheel. Maybe that would be something that we can leverage the experience and insights and help us make the decision.
Because they must have gone to the roofing companies, they must have done a lot of research for over 2 years, right? So I'm thinking that they have a bunch of information that they could share with us. That would be helpful.
I appreciate, Chair, I appreciate. that
Right, but I mean,
comment.
having said all these, I mean, staff, you understand where we came from. However, we do have a representative online, and the person has been waiting for a few hours. It would be polite for us to hear him out.
Yeah.
Is the person still available? We would like to welcome him or her.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Thank you, Jonathan. Go ahead.
Oh, sure. I'll try to keep it short and sweet for you guys. Thank you for the time. Just a couple quick things to point out
Hey,
regarding
just to recap for formality, Jonathan, recite your whole name and your company.
Jonathan Levine, Territory Manager for GAF Building Materials.
GAF.
Oh, you're with GAF. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Please continue.
Just a few things. One, we do offer up to 50-year guarantees on the material, strongest in the industry, and up to 25 years on the workmanship, which would go a long way in protecting your homeowners and the resale value. Warranty would be transferable one time at no cost. Additionally, we offer a rebate for former and active military directly from GAF for qualified candidates. We're backed by Good Housekeeping, and we've won the Women's Choice Award 5 years. Currently got 5 colors that meet Title 24, and all of them are in production and available. So with all that, happy to answer any other questions. And again, appreciate the time.
Do you have any photos of as applied material? Do you have any photos of homes with these materials? Do you have anything to present?
Not with me, no.
Jonathan, I have a question, 2 questions actually. When I went on your website today, I only saw 3 colors in the line that's presented here. Maybe if I was looking not at the right place, could you send a link maybe after the meeting to staff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because I only found 3, so you know, often looking at these materials can be a little bit tricky, but I try to follow the exact name. So
Can
that's
be
the first
glitchy.
one.
Yeah, the site can be glitchy with the zip codes because Title 24 in LA County isn't necessarily carried over to specific cities.
Okay, so yeah, it would be very helpful if you could provide a precise link URL.
No problem.
Thank you. Second one is the are you a regional rep or higher up? I guess what I'm getting at is that could you help us to coordinate for some actual home or job site that we can go visit?
Yeah, we could make that happen.
Okay, in this area, are you like Southern California?
Yeah, I cover Los Angeles County.
Okay, all right. Same thing, if you have that information, or if you're willing to help us, maybe you could send that information to staff.
Sure.
Thank you.
Jonathan, as a follow-up, other brands talk about the thickness of the material. Do you have that information shared with us? Some even say 2-ply, 3-ply, thickness and number of plies.
It's a double laminate, so 2-ply. And at the butt edge, it's about 3/8 of an inch thick.
Jonathan, I'd like to ask you this basic question. Most of our homes are re-roofing rather than new construction because the city is pretty much fully built. Do you recommend complete removal of the existing roofing down to the plywood before you apply your roofing, for one? Two, if not, can your product go on top of existing roof? Would you recommend that with your warranty? Three, if you can go over, at least let me understand, what is the number of plies with your base sheet to your overlapping of your final product? Can you walk us through the actual layers of roof that you have? How is that being applied?
Yeah, sure. We'd always recommend that you tear off down to the plywood. However, if a single layer of composite is in somewhat serviceable condition, you can overlay it with this product, Grand Sequoia, and the warranty will still remain in full force. Speaking to the plies, we would recommend that you put down at least one layer of underlayment. Tiger Paw is one we offer that would be serviceable and again, uphold all the warranty that comes with the product. And then the shingles, so I guess 2 layers, one of them being composite shingles.
So your shingle, your end product overlap each other about what, 50% overlapping one to the other?
Oh, yes.
And then your underlayment will be like a what?
It's about 4 inches.
About 4 inches.
Yeah, the laps.
And these are all hot mop on?
No, they're fastened, mechanically fastened, nails.
Oh, it's nail. I see. So you do not hot mop the base sheet anymore?
Not in this case.
Everything is nailed on. Okay.
Yeah, with these shingles.
Yeah. So yeah, I think is this one of the product that we have in front on the floor now? We have it here. Does this product look with the best shadow line and looks thicker from your product line?
What color do you have there?
We have both. What color is that? We have the forest brown.
We have sagewood.
Sagewood.
Sagewood and forest brown are the two that.
Forest brown
And sagewood.
and sagewood. Are those the ones that give you the heaviest look and body and thickness and shadow line?
It's hard to say. It's all perception, but I would say they're all about equal. The stone gray and the charcoal might have a bit more depth, but
I see.
Everybody's opinion is their own.
But product wise, the actual thickness of the product, this is your best product?
We do have thicker products, but they don't comply with Title 24.
Oh, so it cannot be used in California anyway, right?
Not in Los Angeles County, no.
No, okay. All right, so this is the only LA County approved product. Why is that? Why is a thicker product will not comply? Do you know?
The colors just haven't been manufactured. Title 24 is relatively new and it's a small segment for a very large business. And
I see.
We found that these are the most in-demand colors at the moment.
I see. All right. No, that's good. If you can somehow provide some addresses for us to go look at with this particular product that you're talking about, because yeah, I didn't know that there are other products that does not meet Title 24 requirement. So is this the only product from GAF that meets the Los Angeles area requirement?
No, we have a couple others, a Timberline Reflector series and a Natural Shadow. They aren't quite as thick though.
Okay, all right. Then this probably is the best product they have, meeting our expectation
Right,
and meeting the code requirement.
indeed.
So yeah, I think that'd be great. The reason why I want to just share it with you quickly, the aesthetic value of the roofing tile is really one of the main thing why the design review committee would want to recommend, because it is more on design, aesthetic, and how compatible it is with the neighborhood that are mostly wood shake real product. So try to find a composite product that will make it look compatible is a challenge. I just want to share that with you so you understand why we asking for all these questions.
Sure.
By extension, it's usually the top of the line product that has that aesthetic quality that we're looking
Right.
for. But you're basically telling us that this is not the top of the line product because we're restricted by the title
Right,
24.
Yeah, in with code, yeah.
So
Just to further follow up, Jonathan, is that the real premium line that is not in compliance with Title 24, would those be 3-ply?
Yes,
And how thick would they be?
I'm not sure.
3/8, right?
Information in front of me.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, how many?
how thick?
Yeah.
He said this one is 3/8. I want to
Right.
know
How
the
thick is
premium.
that one?
He's looking up right now.
Yeah, we need that thickness
exactly.
to, to make it
What's the
look right.
name of that line? Because maybe.
He
it
said
will be-
Timberline, Timberline? Is it Timberline, the top of the line?
There's a product called Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon
Oh,
versus Grand Sequoia.
Grand Canyon, go, all right.
Yeah.
Like-
Let us know when you have the thickness data handy, okay?
Okay, sure.
Sure.
Or I don't know that I'll be able to pull that right now. I'll have to reach out to technical.
No problem. You can share that with staff and they will forward that to us. That's okay. Thank you.
Who remember that name? Grand Canyon, like that. Except this currently, it does not meet the LA code, so we cannot
Yeah,
use it.
correct.
I just want to see how it looks like.
Yeah.
Why does it not meet code just because they haven't asked for it to meet code? Would be the same environmental reasons, or that is.
California requirements are a lot more
They haven't
strict.
asked for the label yet?
California requirements are a lot more stringent than most other states. You go to Texas, they use anything.
But I think, I don't think we have a clear answer. What is the reason that the top of the line 3-ply thicker material does not meet the Title 24 standard? Why is that?
It hasn't been tested by the CRRC.
They haven't tried to
Yeah, they
apply
haven't
for it.
They haven't tried it. Okay.
I think,
Testing.
I think it's just economical reasons.
It's up to $1 million to get a color tested.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's,
it's just economical.
thank
They
you.
kind of,
But, okay.
but it's a big market in LA, they should do it.
Well, I mean,
Okay, any other questions for Jonathan?
We actually have more Title 24 compliant options than any manufacturer out there.
We are looking at the premium lines, which the current Grand Sequoia seems to be the most premium and compliance line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
If there is no other questions from the committee, Jonathan, we want to thank you for staying up late tonight. And we appreciate it. Same time
Sure
zone in
thing.
India.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, great. Okay, I want to see if there's any public comment at this stage. Seeing none, so it will be the committee discussion. So I'd like to open it up and see what may be the outstanding issues and what may drive a final decision eventually, so that we can have staff and other ad hoc committee help us to get through that. So anybody want to speak up? Okay.
I think fundamentally, a couple of issues for me are having a full understanding of why these are the two manufacturers that are being presented, as opposed to a whole host of other manufacturers out there, what exactly the criteria were, sorry, and seeing them as applied. I don't feel comfortable making any decision without seeing this roofing material as applied. And the point was well taken. by committee member Chang. I mean, it's got to be, like re-roofing, not new construction. I mean, like for like, I would be Pasadena, South Pasadena, Altadena, architecturally appropriate homes. Like to see it, I don't want to go to some subdivision somewhere and see this.
It's fair. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, it'd be really great. This is promising. These are two sets of materials that seem promising, and I'm just glad to have anything in front of us, frankly. But yes, maybe if I might suggest, it might be nice for someone from that group, this group that was looking at roofing materials, to just come and just briefly tell us what their process was, and like, are we only looking at their recommendations for composition roof shingles, or are there other recommendations, or is this, just to give us an idea of like what the process was to selecting these two. But really, it'd be great to get addresses and to go out and look at them. And I would love to approve more roofing materials, because we need more options for residents, and this roofing materials list needs to be updated. So I see this as progress, but let's get addresses, like you said, on existing traditional homes. And let's just maybe get a little more information from the group that selected these materials. Thank you.
Rick?
I'll just make one more observation. Building material has been a challenge, especially in the last 2 years. But actually, all building material, not just roofing. Roofing has been particularly one of them. So I think pandemic has changed the whole worldwide, how the expectation has been changed. What we used to be able to get them is no longer available. I deal with it every day, and it's shocking to hear how difficult it is to even get material at all. So I don't know how that is going to change in the future. It may change us for a long time, or for forever, maybe. We don't know, because you try to manufacture something in one location, and even the product is done, you have problem getting into where you want it. The transportation, the logistic of getting product from one end to the other worldwide is completely off whack. So we're gonna have to be a little bit more flexible to work with our residents, because if they got a problem with the roof leak, we're gonna have to help them. So I would say this product, this asphalt shingle product is quote unquote known for a long time, because they've been using it for 40, 50, 100 years. But it's hard to find a good looking product and a high quality product, because they basically just asphalt with some rock and just to beat the sun. And that's what it is. Any other similar product, you can see some of them are no longer in business, because if they don't sell well, if they don't hold up, I've seen a few product has diminished after that. Calcic is one of them. They start disintegrating later after the sun beat it for 5 years. They start losing their property and start falling apart. Then they got a major issue. We used to approve Calcic, that's gone. The product you just mentioned, they no longer making it. So we need to kind of fill in the blank every so often. We have to work hard to find the latest product, the best product that we can get our hand on, and to keep the neighborhood looking right. It's a job for us.
You raise a very good point. I mean, it's not just seeing it as applied, it's also getting some real feedback from customers as to what the longevity of the product is, and if there have been issues, which requires a little research, frankly.
Yes.
Now, I have a couple questions a question for staff, if I may, Chair. So one thing comes to my mind is that this whole process, if we take the current pre-approved list as example, okay, all these roofing material on the current list. Was DRC ever involved in that, making that decision? Or that list was decided by planning and some other group?
So the current list that we are using, we probably have a member in the audience that may have been involved with the original DRC in selecting the material that's currently on the list. So previously, the DRC group was involved in evaluating these material. And to your earlier question, that there was one material that failed the expectation of some of the residents in the city, and the DRC did remove one material from the list. So that removal process also started with the DRC group and was recommended to the Planning Commission, and that material was ultimately removed from the list.
So over the years that this pre-approved list was kind of built up, right?
Correct.
And edited. And every time DRC would be involved in the process, and then planning would, give its blessing to make it official.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks for that information, because I was just thinking, this sort of reminds me a little bit of the San Marino Center, the whole proposal remodeling, like what our opinion, do our opinions really count? Like the whole renovation. So I'm just wondering, like, do we just, punt it to planning committee, say, okay, well, you guys just come up with the list, we will say yes or no. Eventually, like, if we think it's appropriate for the project, we say yes. If not, we say no. So just like, if there's a list, you give it to us, we'll work with that list, but it would, expanded, adding more material. So I was just trying to get a little bit more understanding, like how important of a role we really play here.
I think it's a very important role. I think the city council and planning commission expect this body
Mhm.
to reach out and come up with that list. Because I
Sure.
remember approving a lot of some of the product on the approved list generated from the design review committee to the planning commission. And then they would accept the recommendation.
Sure.
And then that become the final list.
Thanks
on
for
the
that
approved list.
information.
So it's important to come from.
Yeah, so, because I was just wondering, because having been through that process myself, I don't know exactly again, it's just trying to understand the expectation.
Yes, it
like,
is kind of process to go through this.
What do we do here? So with that in mind, I totally agree with some of the points already being brought up. I believe Chair Wan brought up that we would like to have a conversation with the comprised, the ad hoc group. Because, why reinvent the wheel when we have somebody, already
Already work on it,
putting
yeah.
time in this, with discussion. We would like to be the fly in the room again. So, not again, but just this time. So have that conversation, and then in addition, like, committee member McKay had brought up a few times that we need to visit these sites. Potential project, and to get a visual on it. So that's what I have in mind. Thank you.
Great. Tony Chow?
I think there's just so much for us to still need to digest at this point. I think it's going to be a process, and I think the best we could do is give you, staff and others, some input of specifics that we're looking for in terms of information, and then take it step by step from there.
Thank you. Rachel.
After waiting all this time, we don't have to rush. I don't want it to be that under our watch, there was something put on the list that had to be removed in 2 years or 3 years. I'm not trying to overthink this, but I really don't want that to happen.
And I agree. We were given this on Friday and asked to make some kind of decision to put on something so significant that I don't feel prepared at all to make a recommendation until I see the roof on. And I'm also questioning why, like I said earlier, why we're seeing products that we've never seen in the city when we have certain cheat we've put on many times. So that was just kind of baffling to me how we can be asked to approve it or to suggest it's being approved when we've never seen it, but we've seen something like it all the time. So, and I also thought we were looking at other alternatives besides composition shingle. So I was confused by that process. I would like to know other, people are saying they're not happy with Cedar Light necessarily, that it's fading. I thought there would be more options for someone who was looking for a wood shake alternative. And so obviously tonight I am not prepared to make any kind of recommendations. Thanks.
And it was mentioned, yeah, thank you. You mentioned earlier that if the DRC gave some sort of direction that it could be considered to recommend the presidential TL and to remove the presidential non-TL, let's call it, or just the plain presidential. So I would just, since I think that you need us to actually verbalize that, I would like to say that that would be something that I think would be worth the planning commission to consider. Dropping the presidential and in its place, putting the presidential TL. I don't know if the other members agree or not, but my understanding is you wanted us to tell you whether we felt that way. So I personally feel that way.
Right, and along the same line for the presidential TL series, we did talk about 3 color schemes.
Yes.
And it seems like we are okay with the 3 to be included. So I'd like to ask for staff guidance as to how we can help make some progress on things that we do seem to have consensus here, while asking for more support on areas that we need additional information.
So in regards to the presidential TL product that is currently on the back of the list that do require applicants to come in front of this committee for installation, while in the event that the home is not currently improved with a composition shingle roof, staff can certainly go forward with your instruction tonight. Prepare a staff report to your planning commission for them to consider taking the presidential TL product and adding it onto the front page of the list, provided that the committee can decide on the colors issue. There are 3 colors that this committee or prior DRC committee have approved for installation in the cities. And I trust that the committee member had a chance to review those addresses in reviewing prior application before you in recent months.
Right, staff report cited already that in recent months, there are 4 counts of approved shadow gray, and there is 1 count of country gray, and there are 2 counts of autumn blend under the presidential TL line. So this is what staff has cited in the report. So I think for me, I'd like to first ask, does the committee feel like recommending presidential TL with X number of colors to be included in a proposal for the planning commission to consider for addition to the pre-approved list, and B, to delete presidential line in totality from the current pre-approved list? So
if you entertain a motion, I'll make that motion. I think we can go ahead and do that, vote it, and then go on to the planning commission for their action.
is there any question about what is the current idea?
Chair, could you remind me what colors are we talking about for the TL?
Right, if I may recap, the committee has considered presidential TL, which is the 3-ply premium of the presidential series, to be approved on case-by-case basis in recent months. And out of those approval, there are recently 4 counts in the shadow gray color.
4 colors.
Shadow gray. That is based on the staff report. 1 count of country gray and 2 counts of autumn blend.
The only thing is that when I was trying to visit 975 Winthrop, I don't know if that was a typo, but I couldn't find it. And that's the only one listed, I think, for Country Gray.
You were able to see it? You found it?
I know which one.
Mhm.
I remember approving it. It was one of our first one.
I think maybe the address was written wrong and I didn't have time to go back and look up. I also remembered approving one there, but I couldn't remember which one exactly.
One is on one side, one is on the other. The Country Gray is on the right side.
Okay.
Now,
I
back to Chair Wong. So if we say, okay, we recommend this to planning, these four colors,
Three
and
colors.
planning
Three
agrees,
colors.
I'm sorry, three. And these will be on the pre-approved list, right?
If they approve, I understand it would be
Yeah.
added to the pre-approved list.
Then if someone wants to use it, they use it, it's hard for us
It
to
would be
to
ministerial,
reject, right?
which is staff would be the gatekeeper. They will look at the compatibility in terms of color and many other factors. And then they'll decide without
Right.
having it come
It
to us.
wouldn't necessarily come to DRC if staffs agree,
That's
if
right.
if it's on the pre-approved list.
That's right.
Right.
Staff doesn't have to agree. They're not going to come they're going to come with a roofing permit. They're not going to come and ask for an opinion on what roof is better for my house. That's not, right? Am I correct?
That is
to an assumption?
correct.
They're just going to hand them the permit and ask the application.
Yeah, it's done.
No consulting with, you should use this or that for your type of house.
So to clarify, that staff,
that-
planning staff has no
that's-
gatekeeping capability once these three colors are in the list.
Correct.
Correct.
Because the old homeowner has their choice. If it's on the pre-approved list,
Right.
and they have existing asphalt shingle, they can come in, pick one of the color, it's done
Right,
deal.
but if they don't,
Mhm.
whenever they apply for a roof and they say it's on the pre-approved list, they don't consult if they can. have
If
it
they
or
don't
not,
like the
or
color,
if it
then they have to
fits.
come to us. But
Right,
if
it's
they
on the
pick any
pre-approved,
of the
but
three,
we're asking to put it on the approved list, the
Right.
pre-approved list, so that they won't come to us anymore.
no,
Which
correct.
is okay, but I think that Rick was possibly under the assumption that when the applicant comes with a roofing permit or application for a new roof, that they might, if they don't have to come to us or anybody, that they would get an opinion from staff about, like, let's say you wanted to use, you have a
You-
wood
you
shake,
mean-
should we use a wood shake? Should I use asphalt shingle or should I use cedar light? They're not gonna ask this question to them. They're just gonna ask, they're gonna look at the list and
Exactly,
say,
that's actually what I meant, like, once we put on the pre-approved list, it's a done deal, they can use whatever they want.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're not gonna say, that's not a good choice. Like, Eva's not gonna say, I don't think that's gonna be the best choice for this house. I think you should try this one. But that was over.
right, right,
In,
so,
in terms of colors, that is correct. Staff will have very little ability to mandate the reconsideration of another color. However, the committee can certainly place limitation on the style of home that a particular colors would be appropriate for, similar to the condition and comment provided on the right-hand columns of the pre-approved material list.
mhm.
But
My take on this is, again, committee member McKay said, we don't have to rush. Like, we don't have to make this recommendation tonight. Personally, I need to review those numbers again. I mean, those colors again, those three or four, whatever, right? If we're gonna go through this whole thing again, why do we want to recommend anything tonight?
I agree.
It seems to me that we have been waiting for 2 years. So another little longer is definitely worth it, so that we do everything right with all the input needed, so that we don't also create more work for staff and the planning commission colleagues over there, so they can do it in one shot and get it done in one shot, hopefully. So let's all work towards that. And to sum up, we would like to learn from the task force, any member of theirs available. How do they come up with these recommendations and the process they have been through? locations that with complete application of these examples, and also the representative from tonight from Owens Corning, so that we have more information on that brand as well. So hopefully we would get those back soon, and we would endeavor to look at those real examples in person for sure. Would that be okay?
Thank you for the.
So it is not a motion thing, right? It's just the direction we are giving you is enough.
Yes, it is.
Great.
Staff will gather all the information and potentially schedule a section that is not at the end of the evening. So that way
Yes.
it's a little more productive for discussion and study.
I was just going to say that. Is it possible to have a separate meeting so that we can give it its due attention
Right.
with the due energy that it deserves and not at the end of the whole agenda?
I think the biggest message, I think that we've heard from many of us is that the addresses with homes of these installed is very important for us.
Right. Great. Thank you. Thank you all. And thank you,
Thank
staff,
you very
again, for
much.
giving us the opportunity to go through this topic. And I would like to now adjourn the Design Review Committee meeting today and adjourn it to November 3rd, 2021. And now we have an open forum session.
Yes, that is correct. We do have someone who's been patiently waiting to join the open forum. I
and we
believe
appreciate that.
alternate committee member Chow has volunteered. If someone else would like to volunteer, that would be greatly
Right. We can have
appreciated
a
as
maximum
well.
of 2, so if anybody else want to join Ray, you're more than welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eva.
Eva, best wishes.
That's it? That's it? Not saying anything?
Speech.
Speech? Sing a song? Then we can have the